We call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us here this evening and all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government at this time. I would ask and introduce Sergeant Ronald Williams of the Wilmington Police Department, if he'll please come forward. Evans, I'm sorry, and give us our invocation. If everyone would stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards. Sarge, welcome.
It's been a long day. It's fine.
I know it is.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we first and foremost thank you for this day. Thank you for your continued grace and your continued mercy that you bestow upon us day in and day out. Lord, we ask for your protection from the seen and the unseen. Lord, I lift up this council to you, lift this staff up to you. Continue to guide their hands and their heart. Give them wisdom as they continue to make decisions that will be beneficial for the citizens of Wilmington. We thank you for everything that you have done in our lives. We thank you for everything that you're doing, and we thank you for everything that you're going to do. In your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have several presentations this evening. Our first presentation is to recognize our Police Chief, Donnie Williams, and we're about to give him the Order of the Lonely Pine. I would ask the entire Wilmington City Council to please join me up front for this presentation. Chief. Donnie Williams is a native of Wilmington, North Carolina, and got his start with the Wilmington Police Department as a summer youth worker assigned to the officer of the chief. He served as a police cadet before becoming a sworn officer in December of 1992. Once sworn in, he steadily rose through the ranks as a dedicated protector of this community. In addition to patrol, his specialized assignments included crime prevention, DARE, and housing. The Wilmington City Council unanimously approved Chief Williams as our Wilmington Police Department Chief in June 23, 2020. He earned the job through his demonstrated leadership, commitment to the citizens of Wilmington, and admirable execution of the projects that he managed. As mayor, I have seen Chief Williams' devotion firsthand. He was hands-on and present through the civil unrest of 2020, particularly in affected neighborhoods, to listen to the concerns, address the grievances, facilitate dialogue, and promote peaceful solutions. He has led Wilmington Police Department through multiple natural disasters, including Hurricane Florence, wherein he played an integral role in responding to unprecedented public safety concerns. Under his leadership, violent crime in Wilmington has neared a multi-year low. His commitment to innovative approaches has produced a highly trained and well-equipped police force which has delivered on City Council's priorities for public safety. Chief Williams has a heart for our community's youth and is credited with expanding the Wilmington Police Department's Police Activity League, better known as PAL, which now includes 4 sports: basketball, soccer, Olympic wrestling, and cheer and dance. More than 500 young Wilmingtonians participate in PAL activities each and every year. I am grateful for Donnie's dedication to the law enforcement profession and his core belief that everyone who calls Wilmington home deserves to live in a safe community with a trusted and effective police force that treats all persons with fairness and respect. Since 1963, North Carolina's governors have reserved their highest honor, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, for persons who have made significant contributions to the state and their communities through exemplary service and exceptional accomplishments. Tonight, on behalf of the governor of the state of North Carolina, I get to bestow this honor upon Chief Donnie Williams, who will retire on June the 30th after more than 33 years of admirable service to the Wilmington Police Department. Over his lifetime, Donnie Williams has demonstrated an enduring dedication to the city of Wilmington and to the state of North Carolina, and that makes him worthy of the high honor of the Order of the Longleaf Pine as we honor him tonight. So on behalf of the governor and all of the citizens of this Wilmington, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I will go ahead and say a few words from here. First, I'd like to thank God for getting me here. But more importantly, I want to thank my mom, Joanne Kellum Williams, who gave birth to me 50 plus years ago, and my wife that has supported me through thick and thin. But more importantly, to the workers of the city of Wilmington that I've called co-workers for the past 30 plus years. That group, and it goes beyond the police department, has stood with me through thick and thin. And the group that I want to thank the most are the citizens of this city. There's that adage that it takes a village to raise a child. And my mom had help raising me. But in addition to raising me, this community supported me for 35 years and allowed me to serve you from being a police cadet all the way up to the office of the chief. And I just want to thank the council members that have supported me through thick and thin. I know at times things have been a struggle finding money to do things, but you have just been so supportive of the police department when we came to you and we really needed something. So to the current council members, thank you. And there's several former council members that I want to thank also. I'm not going to name them all, but there's 3 that are not here that were part of the group that appointed me in 2020. And again, just thank you to this community for embracing me and the women and men of the Wilmington Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. I'd like to recognize Wes Magruder, who's the Office Director of the Church World Services. Is he here? Yes, come on. Proclamation naming June 20th, 2025 as World Refugee Day. Proclamation from the City of Wilmington. Whereas the City of Wilmington, North Carolina is a welcoming community that values diversity and inclusion. And whereas World Refugee Day, observed annually on June the 20th, is a day to honor the courage, resiliency, and contributions of refugees worldwide. And whereas refugees have been forced to flee their homes due to conflict, persecution, and other circumstances, seeking safety and a new life. And whereas the City of Wilmington, North Carolina recognizes the vital role of refugees in enriching our community and contributing to our culture, diversity, and economic vibrancy. And whereas the city of Wilmington, North Carolina is committed to supporting refugees in their journey to integration and self-sufficiency. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the city council of Wilmington, North Carolina do hereby proclaim June 20th, 2025 as World Refugee Day. And I just want to say on behalf of the citizens of Wilmington, thank you for everything you folks do and the folks that you deal with as they have been refugeed here to this country.
Thank you very much. The city of Wilmington has proven to be an incredibly welcoming community over the last 10, 15 years. Our office has been open for just 2.5 years, and in that time, in the last 2.5 years, we have resettled 360 refugees in Wilmington from all over the world, Democratic Republic of Congo, Syria, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Guatemala, Burma. The list is quite long, and they've all taken those first steps to self-sufficiency and integration. With me, standing with me is Wilson Cadet, who is a refugee himself from Haiti and who arrived a couple of years ago and is now on staff working with us to help other refugees. So we just want to say thank you to the community for supporting refugees here in Wilmington.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a small picture right over here. All right, our next presentation, I'd like to recognize Jamie Windham, who is the proclamation naming June 2025 as Pride Month, and he's also the executive director of the LGBTQ Center Cape Fear. But you want to bring some of your friends up here? Come on up here. Hey guys. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Long time no see.
City of Wilmington, North Carolina proclamation reads, whereas our nation was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of this promise has been long in coming for many Americans. And whereas on June 2025 marks the 56th anniversary of the Stonewall riots that gave birth to the Pride celebrations around the world. And whereas LGBTQ+ Pride Month is an essential celebration that provides visibility to the LGBTQ+ community, offers hope to those still in fear of being their authentic selves, and sends a resounding call to all to use our voices to eliminate injustice everywhere. And whereas the LGBTQ+ communities of Wilmington are an integral part of our resilient and vibrant community that contributes to Wilmington's economic, artistic, political, and social justice developments. And whereas the long and ongoing struggle of the LGBTQ+ communities for basic civil and human rights continues to provide inspiration to all those who work against discrimination and oppression. And whereas everyone should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based on race, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation. And whereas the city of Wilmington remains committed to treating all people with fairness and respect. And whereas the city of Wilmington joins the LGBTQ+ community in Pride's jubilating expression of visibility, community, and dignity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Wilmington City Council, on behalf of all residents of the City of Wilmington, does hereby proclaim June 2025 as Pride Month in the City of Wilmington and urges all residents to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build a culture of inclusion and acceptance. So, congratulations, and thank you very much. Let's open it up.
Wow, thank you so much for stepping up and being so supportive. We really appreciate it. Our community is here. We will always be here, and we will come out in full force and support one another. If you're out there and you don't feel like you are safe, please reach out. We are a center that is welcoming, and we just want you to feel like you have people and you have support, because you do, and you deserve to be your authentic self. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Next, I'd like to recognize Thomas Boland, who is the chair of the Wilmington Tree Commission, for presentation of the Heritage Tree Awards. Boland, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of City Council. My name is Thomas Boland, and I'm the chair of the Wilmington Tree Commission. I would like to thank you for appointing me to the commission along with our 8 other members. Tonight, I'll be presenting the annual Heritage Tree Awards. The mission of the Wilmington Tree Commission is to support, maintain, and grow our urban forest. We do this by promoting public education and offering award programs that encourage a healthy and safe natural environment for everyone. Oh, sorry. One of the key ways we advance this mission is through the Heritage Tree Awards program. The program is designed to recognize and celebrate exceptional trees within our community, trees that stand out because of their age, rarity, unique grouping, natural beauty, or historical significance. These trees are not only a vital part of our city's landscape, but they also hold deep meaning and value to the people who live here. By honoring these heritage trees, we aim to raise public awareness, appreciation for the importance of preserving both these special trees in our broader urban forest. While the program is purely honorary and does not provide legal protection from removal, it serves as a powerful reminder of the living legacy trees represent in our neighborhoods. As a point of reference, 72 trees have been honored since the program began in 2007. Tonight, we'll add 4 additional trees to this list and honor the applicants who nominated them. I would also like to encourage anyone within Wilmington who has a beautiful tree to apply for the Heritage Tree Award. There is no cost to you for the application. Applications can be found on the City of Wilmington website under the Wilmington Tree Commission page. So now we're going to proceed to the presentation of the awards. We'll do them one at a time, and for the people that are going to accept these awards, once I name who you are, come up and we'll give you a certificate. The first award is a live oak tree located at Page Avenue. This tree is located in the public right-of-way and offers a large canopy cover to this neighborhood with a crown spread of 41 feet. It stands 55 feet tall with a trunk circumference of 16 feet. Do we have any pictures or? No? Okay. All right. I would like to recognize the applicant, Chelsea Parham, to accept this award. They found the pictures. We have a total of 4 awards, and so we just have 3 more. Yep. So here is Chelsea Parham's tree. So the second award is another live oak tree located on Princess Place Drive. This tree is located on private commercial property. As one of the few trees on the site, it offers invaluable services to the lot with a height of 65 feet and a crown spread of almost 50 feet. I'd like to recognize the applicant, Donna Dawson, to accept this award. The third tree is another live oak located on Head Road. This area is known for its beautiful, lush landscape and unique waterfront ecology. This tree is located on a private residential property. This live oak tree reaches an impressive height of 78 feet, a crown spread of 42 feet, and a trunk circumference of 18 feet. I'd like to recognize the applicant, Jill Webb, to accept this award. Last but not least is another live oak located on Monroe Street. This tree is located on a private residential property. This tree offers a uniquely large and even canopy cover with a crown spread of 47 feet. It stands 56 feet tall with a trunk circumference of 9.5 feet. I'd like to recognize the applicant, Isabel Shepard, to accept this award. So thank you all, to all the awardees, and to the City Council for your interest and investment in supporting our urban tree canopy. And I'd like to pitch again, please apply for a heritage tree. We'd love to have you, and there's beautiful trees throughout the city of Wilmington that we want to honor and see if we can maintain and really grow this great program. So thank you again. I really appreciate your time, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Mr. Bolton, just a quick question. Is there a way to estimate the age of those trees?
It's very difficult to estimate the age without actually going in and core sampling the tree.
Okay.
And what we don't want to do is potentially damage
Destroy
the
it.
tree through core sampling, but obviously these trees weren't born yesterday, so.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
So they're probably anywhere from 80 to 150 years old.
Wow. All right. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 17. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the service dog
Yeah.
K-9 Officer Dex is here with us this evening, so I think it'd be appropriate to hear this item separately.
Absolutely. Okay, so C2 will be pulled. I will also, I'm sorry,
I'd like to pull 17. I have a question.
17,
14.
14. Okay. 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 So we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, seconded by Councilmember Andrews, to accept the consent agenda excluding items C2, C17, and C14. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. We'll go, let's do the K-9 last, if it's okay. Mr. Rivenbark, item C17.
Yes, in reading over the verbiage, one of the bidders was not NCDOT pre-qualified. Do you only find that out after you've opened the bid?
I'll burden the project manager to the podium. He can answer the question.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So to answer your question, we do require, for this project in particular, because it is so complex, it does require certain pedigree in order to complete it, that we are requiring certain pre-qualifications prior. Well, I should say the bidder doesn't have to show those qualifications until after the project, until after the bids are received.
Well, that just is, it seems to fly in the face of, I think we should know that before we go into a bid opening, that you do have pre-qualification, don't you? It stands to reason that's when they would show their cards, or not. And I don't say it just for this project, but I'm saying it for any time we have a bid opening, because I've seen this happen at other places besides the city of Wilmington, and it just, Mike?
I'd just like to share on the slide here, this talks about the DOT pre-qualification codes that are critical to this complex project. As part of the bid documents, it identified that the 2024 NCDOT standard specifications for roads and structures, the project had to adhere to those requirements, and that includes those pre-qualification codes. If the bidders had any concern or question about that, they had an opportunity during the 30-day bid advertisement to ask those questions. Those questions did not come up, and the bidding closed at that point. So,
well, I guess that's where the rub is. Why didn't it? Why? They know what there is expected of them, and yet they still submit a bid knowing that they were not going to, that it was going to be tossed. Is that a fair statement?
well, I guess that would be a fair statement, but because we did identify that it needs to follow the 2024 DOT standards, that's what triggers that. They're more than welcome if we re-advertise it, which we will, to speak with us about that. If they want to apply for those codes, they can. But there are other bidders out there that have those codes that we hope will bid on this
I guess you just touched on it. If they know they don't have those codes, why wouldn't they come forward? They know they need them, right? They know that.
I would assume so.
Well, isn't that part of our bid package that we advertise?
Part of the bid package. That's
okay.
Right.
You're answering my question, but
I might be able to help just a little bit. We did say that they had to be NCDOT qualified for this project. The bidder that did not meet all the qualifications is pre-qualified for certain NCDOT projects, but there were 3 separate codes in this one that they were not. My understanding is that they believed that they were because they have done certain bridge projects in the past, like refurbishment, but that is not the same as some of these specific codes. And so I believe that there was a misunderstanding about what the qualifications were. And so when we do re-advertise, we're going to be more specific about that. And they will have an opportunity to get.
I understand. I was asking the question more than just this project, all bids, because I've seen it happen In 25 years, I've seen it happen a lot where they toss bids out because they weren't qualified. Well, that's why you have a pre-qualification meeting, so they'll know what's expected of them. I appreciate your answer. It's good. Thank you.
And I also need to make a note that I have to recuse myself from this specific vote because I do have a family member that I guess has made some sort of a proposal here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Do I have to take a vote on that? I can just recuse myself.
If you could make a motion to recuse yourself. and then
Okay. We have a motion to recuse me by Councilmember Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm hereby recused. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
So we're taking item number
17.
Yeah. Item number C-17. I take a motion. All right. I receive a motion from Councilman Waddell, seconded by Councilmember Salette. All those in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and it's so ordered. Thank you much.
We have a police officer that wants to retire very quickly, so I'm going to move him kind of to the
Mr.
front.
Mayor. C-14.
I know I was going to take Dex first because he's about to jump out of the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a resolution authorizing the city manager to retire Police K-9 Officer Dex and to transfer ownership of K-9 Officer Dex to Police Sergeant Kendall Murphy. There we go. She's ready. Yeah, Dex is ready to go. Yeah. Thank you for all your service. We appreciate that. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. So in respect to the motion, to item C2, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Andrews. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Congratulations on your retirement, Dex. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item C14, and I'll recognize Mr. Spears. Mr. Spears?
Yep. Interim City Manager, Mr. Moulton, I just want all the information and data that's associated with C14 in this program sent to me, that's all. Well, sent to the council. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Spears, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information. We have one speaker that has signed up to speak with us this evening. Will be allotted 5 minutes, and he's Mr. Jordan Pettit with the Wilmington Fire Department. Mr. Pettit?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Jordan Pettit. I stand before you tonight with the privilege of serving as the president of Wilmington Professional Firefighters Local 129. It's an association made up of dedicated firefighters who I have the honor to represent and whom I would trust without hesitation to save my own family. I want to begin by offering my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for your continued partnership and support over the past year. I know we've had our ups and downs throughout the budget process, difficult conversations, differing viewpoints and hard decisions, but through it all, this has proven to be one of the most impactful and forward-thinking budget cycles we've experienced in recent memory. The results speak for themselves, not just for the members of Local 129, but for the community that we serve. Because of your commitment to public safety, we've been able to move forward on several critical initiatives that will have a lasting impact, not only on the fire service, but on every person the city relies on during the most vulnerable moments. First, I want to recognize a major step forward in the protection of firefighter health, the inclusion of annual cancer screenings in the department's health protocols. Local 129 has been spearheading this effort for several years. We first began offering cancer screenings to our members 3 years ago, and then we did so this past January. It was just a few months ago that I spoke at this council meeting about the devastating toll occupational cancer has taken on firefighters. Your decision to fund this is a life-saving effort as part of health and safety standards means everything to our members and their families. It shows that you understand that protecting our firefighters doesn't stop at the fire scene. It extends to long-term health and well-being. This effort is also strengthened by our ongoing transition to PFAS-free gear, as well as the hope of receiving mission-ready gear in the near future. While we haven't yet implemented the final piece, these initiatives taken together represent a major shift in how we view firefighter health, not just responding to problems after the fact, but proactively working to prevent them, and that shift saves lives. Second, we want to thank you for approving the implementation of the senior firefighter position. With this new position, we now have a place for veteran firefighters who have not yet promoted to be able to promote to the senior firefighter position and share that knowledge. This rank not only is going to be a morale booster, but it will strengthen crew dynamics and help us retain those in our department who make it better every day. Third, your commitment to a competitive compensation has not gone unnoticed. For years, we've watched highly trained, dedicated firefighters leave for neighboring departments for better pay. But with that, this should change that reasoning. Your action to begin closing the wage gap tells our members that they are valued and that their service to the city is worth investing in. This step helps us attract the kind of professionals that the people of Wilmington deserve. It builds the pride, ownership, and professionalism great departments are built on. Lastly, the approval of a training captain position addresses one of the most vital needs in our operation, the consistent, high-quality training that we depend on. In our line of work, split-second decisions, muscle memory, and the coordination can be the difference between life and death. The training captain will ensure our firefighters stay sharp, stay prepared, and stay safe, which ultimately means better outcomes for the people we serve. These victories did not happen by isolation. They were the result of long conversations, smart questions, and the willingness from this council to listen, collaborate, and act. For that, we are deeply appreciative. As a small token of appreciation, I brought a local 129 challenge coin for each of you. In the fire service, a challenge coin is a symbol of trust, respect, and shared purpose. These coins are carried with pride and are presented to individuals who have demonstrated meaningful support and commitment. Tonight, we offer them to you in recognition of your leadership and gratitude for the decisions you've made to strengthen our department and to protect the ones we serve. So when you hold the coin, I hope you know that it represents our respect for your leadership, our appreciation for your decisions, and your commitment to continuing to serve the city of Wilmington. Thank you for standing with us, for placing the trust in us, and making the health, safety, and future of Wilmington's firefighter a clear priority. Your support has made a real and lasting impact. We will continue to honor the commitment the best way we know how by responding to the most difficult emergencies and mitigating them with professionalism, skill, and a dedication that the city deserves. And with that, I got one for each of you.
Nice coin.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes public information. We're now going to public hearings. PH1 is the 2026 Annual Action Plan for CDBG and Home Funds. This is a public hearing only. This time I'd like to recognize the interim city manager, Mr. Moten, for staff presentation. Mr. Moten?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. Staff presentation will be started by Rachel Schuler, Housing and Neighborhood Services Director, and be concluded by Gilbert Combs, Community Development and Housing Manager.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. We are here tonight to present the annual action plan. This is just a public hearing. A resolution for your action will take place in the July meeting. This is a requirement of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as part of our entitlement. So the plan is currently out for public comment through June 26. It is posted on the website. There was a notice in the newspaper and emailed to our distribution list. Again, we will be before you on July 15th for consideration of the resolution to adopt the plans to be submitted to HUD. This plan is a culmination of several steps in the HUD process, and so we have a required 5-year consolidated plan that assesses the community needs and market conditions to help make the decisions for a 5-year plan. It informs these annual action plans that give specific goals and needs and priorities for all of the actions, activities, and resources. And following the end of the year, a CAPER, the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, reports on the accomplishments and progress. This document is informed by all of the city's initiatives and other plans, including the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, and our fair housing plan. Shown here are the goals of the consolidated plan. Again, this is the 5-year plan, and so these are over the course of 5 years. Shown here is the trend of both federal and local dollars that are invested in the community development and housing programs. You can see the shift and changes of federal funding over the past few years, which are not a result of performance by the city, but just changes in allocations and budgets. And so there's no control we have over that shrinking, but we appreciate the continued support of council to help leverage those dollars to make these programs work. I'm going to turn it over to Gilbert Combs, Community Development and Housing Manager, who's going to talk through our survey.
Thank you, Ms. Schuler. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. So that funding that Ms. Schuler just mentioned helps to support the goals of the annual action plan. Before you are those prescribed goals prescribed by the consolidated plan. An important consideration each year are responses gathered from a survey during the draft period for the plan. Ahead, I will focus on the top responses to program-related questions and briefly describe how they support the decisions made related to department programs. This also provides an opportunity to share some of the programs administered by the Housing and Neighborhood Services staff. The first question asks participants to select their top 3 public investments of those listed. Now, before I get too far into this, I just want to mention that the responses shown have been abbreviated from the actual survey for clarity and conciseness of this presentation. The number 1 response here was to rehabilitate or repair vacant housing for affordable homeownership. The department does run owner-occupied rehabilitation programs and a home buying program with the potential for rehabilitation called HOP, or Home Ownership Pool. For public services, which is implemented through the city's Human Services Program, many of the results are in line with the recommendations that you all heard at yesterday's agenda briefing. Ranked at the top is quality, affordable childcare. While the city does not provide the service directly, through the city's Human Services grant, we support organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club, Voyage, and the Child Development Center. For this question, pertaining to quality of life indicators in neighborhoods, the highest response was providing financial assistance to help homebuyers afford a home. The department supports homeowners in this way through a down payment assistance program and through, again, the homeownership pool program. Top affordable housing issues are listed here. And the highest response was a lack of housing options for families earning 80% to 60% area median income, or AMI. And here, we just have some options for the most critical homeless service needs. The highest response was homelessness prevention, diversion, and rapid exit. The Homeless Services Grant, a competitive grant opportunity, supports local programs with CDBG dollars. The Affordable Housing Fund provides support through the city's gap financing program. With that, I'll hand it back to Ms. Schuler to describe how funds will be distributed across the different programs.
Thank you. So based on the survey and from experience, the department has proposed these recommendations for funding, looking at the different categories, the program delivery, our affordable housing, public services, and healthy homes continuation of the grant. You can see that there's a mix of sources in all of the different funding programs. The largest pot being the affordable housing development, the gap financing. That does consist of both general funds and home dollars. And so the general funds is about $1 million in home, and so it's about $5.2 million in general funds. That is typically what you see during the fund balance policy decision, and so that is under that 2.5 threshold that we set back in December, January timeframe. So looking forward, we don't anticipate a slowdown of loans and grants coming before you, both in our large projects like the gap financing, but then also in our in-house programs that we manage through our loan review board that you appoint members to. The survey and public comment period will be open again through the end of June 26th. This is a public hearing tonight, and so any feedback that is gathered both through the public comments, the survey, and tonight's hearing will be incorporated into the final plan that's presented to you in July. I'm happy to answer any questions before the public hearing, though.
Yes, sir. Mr. Joyner?
Hey, could you give us some context and information on how the survey is formatted? And in particular, I think one of the examples that I would bring to light is that there was a significant response around education, which by North Carolina general statutes is not, I don't want to say it's not our responsibility, but we have no authority over that. That's all county and school board. So how does that get mixed into our survey here?
The city funds several after-school programs that assist with education, and so when HUD, we look at the different eligible activities, that's what helps form the actual survey and potential programs, and so that's where that came into play, and then how we deliver that is, as we present through our human services, different opportunities for after-school programming.
Mayor Pro Tem?
In line with Councilman Joyner, my question I wrote was, how many surveys have we received now? Do you know number?
It was about 800 so that we had.
Okay, yeah, I saw that 800 up there, okay.
Yeah,
And how many, do they go out by, they go to the website and get the surveys, or do you mail them out? Like old people like me would, check the box and look for it in the mailbox? How does that work?
we currently have it electronic only. I will say that one of the benefits of the proposals in the budget with our engagement software is that in the next cycle, we may have different options for how we're able to do the survey, but yes, currently it's only electronic.
Okay, and is there a medium or a maximum number that you're trying to reach?
We are very satisfied with even 800 at this point. Surveys can be difficult to get responses to, so we're grateful for the feedback that we've received so far.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
Thank you, as always, Ms. Schuler, for a great presentation. You often answer my questions before I ask them. There's a list of service providers on the draft annual action plan. That's not fully indicative of the exclusive partners that will be funded. I mean, specifically thinking of the gap financing funds that we don't know where those are going to go throughout the course of a year. So this is not to say that this is an exclusive list of providers, right?
No, those are folks that we have spoken with through the different processes, people who have been funded in previous cycles, people who have reached out to us. And so no, especially for the gap financing, they are not listed in this plan yet because it is an open application process. There are other communities that will put the RFPs out prior to the plan, and that's when you see them actually listed. But because of the way that we are structured, we don't have that. So yes, it is open to other folks who are not necessarily in that plan.
Okay, and then our affordable housing fund, for lack of a better term, is at 5.2. You said there was $1 million additional there that was home funds, but our general fund dollars are 5.2, and that's below that 2.5x cap that we put on altogether recently.
Yes, based off of the policy, 2.5 times the value of that fund is about $5.7 million. Okay. So it puts us below because the other funds are spent on the operating and then some of the programs that are in the pipeline with our affordable housing, down payment assistance, those types. We have some pre-qualified buyers, so we sort of set that aside.
Okay. If it was to go over, just refresh my memory, if this 6.2 was just actual 6.2 general fund, we would sweep that that delta between 6.2 and 5.7 back to the fund balance? Where's it go?
Yes, that would be in January is when we would be presenting that to you, an update on where we stand. But yes, that would go back to the fund balance
Okay.
for one-time use.
Thank you.
Mr. Spears?
Rachel, you said there's been an uptick in participation in HOP programs, right?
We have seen an increase. The way that the HOP program has been restructured to allow, we have this HOP rehab program. We have sort of shifted with the changing market conditions where folks are able to buy a home and also do rehabilitation on them to help bring them up. And so we found a lot of success with that, as well as pairing it with some of our other programs that the state offers through our community loan pool, where there's additional down payment assistance that can be layered on. So that's where we're seeing a lot more success.
Okay. And is that money being like fully taken up, fully used, or?
We have some carryover from year to year, and this represents, as you can imagine, loans don't end cleanly at the end of a fiscal year. And so through the process, yes, there is some carryover, and that's where that allocation, that's how that gets built up.
Thank you.
Rachel, just curious, with the number of units that the private sector is putting in to some of these developments when they come forward, and they said they're going to cut away 10%, 15% for affordability, and we approve it based on that. How does that information, in addition to the affordable housing developments that we've approved with gap funding, how does that information get shared with the public so they know where to go, who to go to? Because you have a litany of different affordable housing options with the Wilmington Housing Authority, you have the private sector, you have gap funding with tax credit funded developers that are coming in there to build affordable housing that we give gap funding to. So how does that information get shared with people that might have an interest in finding affordable housing?
The state runs a website, it's nchousing.org, I believe. I'll get that back to you, but it's how you can search affordable housing in the community, and it'll say whether it's restricted to seniors, if there's any other restrictions to that extent. And so that's where we always recommend folks, it's like NorthCarolinaHousingSearch.org, I believe. Like I said, I'll find that out for you for sure, but that's where we send a lot of people because it opens that all up, all the different options.
So when they call the city looking or asking, that's where you send them to?
Yes, right now with Starway having active application process, we do send them directly, if they're interested in that, to the folks who are at the property management company. When I think the same with other projects that are open for application, at that time, typically the developers will let our office know, and the manager's office who receive a good number of phone calls about that, so they can make that direct connection, so we don't have that extra step.
And then with the Wilmington Housing Authority, because they have a waiting list of a certain amount of people for vouchers, do we share with them this information so they may have people on their waiting list that could get some affordable housing in other ways?
It is my understanding that the Housing Authority cannot favor a certain development or property management company, so I'm not sure how much they're able to send to their waiting list of the different opportunities. But I'm sure that there's a lot of folks who are on other distribution lists or have other coordinated services that are also receiving that information. Any time that there's lease-ups or any of that information, I know Mr. Garrett with the Housing Authority is on a lot of the distribution lists, and he's aware, and members of his office are as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Waddell?
Dovetail a bit on the mayor's questions there. How do we internally keep track of our private sector workforce housing units that are approved via conditional rezoning when somebody has, 5 or 10%, as some spectrum of AMI units as workforce housing? How are we, I know you and I talked offline about, investing in some sort of software that would track and maybe keep a dashboard. Where are we on that, and how do we internally keep track of those units, how many we have, whether or not they're coming online, when they're coming online, making sure the developer is offering them, et cetera?
The compliance for those conditions are administered through the planning department. They also run it through our office just to make sure that everything's, on track. So that's how they maintain that. And we do regular communication on what the status. As you mentioned, there is a potential software that may allow that to be an easier transition, and potentially dashboards that is in the budget this year, and if approved, will be a great benefit to be able to communicate that out. But yes, sort of as you said, Mayor, that we can do a better job of sharing our toolbox of different tools, both from a financial as well as a programmatic and planning tools.
Very good. Mr. Ravenbar?
Yes, ma'am. Rachel, do you have to know what the length of the waiting list is at Wilmington Housing Authority?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Okay. My second point I wanted to make, it's real easy sometimes to tell people to go to a particular website, but there's a segment of our population out there that either don't have that capability or have a how should I say it, a difficult time of connecting. So I hope that we would question them to make sure before you hang up, or your people or anybody, that they do understand what you're asking them to do. And if they can't access that, we can help them. Is that right?
Absolutely. Through our housing counseling, it's not just about helping folks with their homes. We also find that maybe not everyone is ready for home ownership. And through our housing counselor, we have also made some really great renters who have improved their finances and gotten themselves in a much better position. And so there are a lot of services that we offer that really benefit the community in ways beyond what they're intended for sometimes.
But you understood my concern.
Absolutely.
About it's so easy, and you hear it on TV everywhere you go. Go to our website.
Absolutely. My staff has a list of different agencies to make referrals to and help to connect, and they tend to learn a lot about the folks on the phone.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH1. Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing, and since this is just a public hearing, no action will be taken at this time. Thank you. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH2, which is an ordinance granting a special use permit for residential courtyard development located at 5651 Greenville Loop Road. This was continued from Council's March 4th, 2025 meeting. Mr. Waddell, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, before we get rolling on that, I just considering the extensive conversation that this body has had publicly about SUPs, and the Planning Commission and the planning staff has had about SUPs, and we ended up kicking it back to the Planning Commission to then to debate and bring back to us a recommendation on what uses were appropriate for SUP. I wonder if it might be okay to ask the applicant if they would consider continuing it until that conversation has fully fleshed out. I understand from the city attorney in our discussion yesterday that we do not have the authority to continue it as a city council, but I would assume it's okay that I ask the applicant whether or not they would consider doing that.
You can certainly ask. I would point out, like I did yesterday, though, that no matter what council changes as far as the rules go in the future, the applicant would still have the option to proceed under the previous rules. And so if they wanted to do an SUP even after you change the rules, they still could, because they applied under the old code, the code that allows it.
I understand that. I'd still like to extend that, that request.
Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Waddell, we would not consent to a continuance in this time. And the reason being, this was originally set to be heard on January 21st. And that was the snowstorm night, right? We had the pickleball thing that night as well. And that got continued to February. This got continued to March. And my understanding is it was continued from March to today at the request of the city. So we're ready to move forward. And as the city attorney said, the law is going to be the same if you change it or don't change it for this particular application, unless the new law happens to be more advantageous, in which case we could switch to that. But we'd like to move forward tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, with that, I will read this statement, that this hearing is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how city council must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. Council's discretion is limited. Council must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. A quasi-judicial decision is not a popularity contest. It is a decision constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented during the hearing only. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinions. So with that, I am going to recognize our city attorney, Ms. Everhart. Ms. Everhart?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, just a brief refresher. Quasi-judicial hearings are different from any other zoning hearings in that City Council is not able to talk to any parties or receive any communication from any parties or concerned citizens prior to the hearing. If they do receive any such communications, they're required to disclose that information during this hearing, and they must state for the record whether they will be able to be fair and impartial triers of fact despite any information they received. At this time, Mr. Mayor, may I please ask if there are any council members who have received any outside communications regarding this matter that they would need to disclose?
I think council received multiple emails today to our public email address. I did not respond to any of them, but I don't know if that counts.
From the parties or from concerned citizens?
Concerned citizens, I believe.
Okay. Then what I need to do is to instruct you that you are not able to consider any of those emails that you received today unless that information is also offered during the course of this hearing. You're not allowed to consider any of that information. Is there anybody who believes that receiving that information this afternoon would prevent you from being a fair and impartial trier of fact?
No.
Thank you.
Not me.
Is there anyone else who received any additional information other than what was received today in your emails? Okay, thank you. Second, participation in a quasi-judicial hearing is limited, and there is no public hearing portion of the hearing. This meeting is open to the public, and the public is welcome to watch, but only parties with standing have the right to participate fully, including testifying and presenting evidence, calling witnesses, and making legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, city staff, expert witnesses providing evidence on issues such as property values and traffic impacts, and individuals who can show that they will suffer special damages over and above any damages to the general public that could occur if the special use permit is granted. Having a personal opinion about whether this is a good project or whether you don't like this project for one reason or another does not reach the threshold of competent material and substantial evidence to show that an individual has standing to participate in this particular hearing. Any parties, including the applicant, staff, expert witnesses, and anyone else who believes they have standing, will need to be sworn in by the city clerk in just a moment and provide your name and address to her. After being sworn in, the mayor will call up all members of the audience who claim to have standing, and each individual claiming standing will be asked to come to the podium one at a time and provide the reason you believe you have standing. The applicant and council will have the opportunity to ask you questions regarding your standing claim. Council will then be required to vote on whether each person has standing, and for any individual who comes forward but is determined not to have standing, council will be required to disregard everything said by that individual, and that person will not be allowed to participate further in the hearing. Those determined to have standing will be allowed to give testimony and ask questions of other witnesses during the hearing at the appropriate time as stated by the mayor.
Okay, very
Turn
good.
back to Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so all persons wishing to speak, including the city staff, the applicant, the expert witness, and anyone who believes they have standing must be sworn in by the city clerk, Penelope Spicer Sidbury. At this time, we have all come forward. Anybody that wants to speak on this particular item, please come forward. Okay. At this time, each one of you that just came up here needs to come up before us, and I'm going to have to ask you, explain yourselves as to whether you have standing or not. So come on up.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that anyone was present from the audience claiming special damages or a neighbor. I believe everyone here is a representative of either staff or with the applicant. Is that correct? It does not appear that there's anybody else that you have to decide standing on, so you're free to proceed.
Okay, very good. At this time, I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Tom Moat. Mr. Moat.
Will be presented by Patrick O'Mahaney, Planning and Development Senior Planner. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This site is located on the north side of Greenville Loop Road, just to the north of Hunter's Mill Lane, east of Quiet Lane, and west of Woodland Trace. It contains approximately 5 acres, and it's currently contains a manufactured home and various accessory structures. Here's a map showing the general vicinity surrounding the request. These are some photos of the existing conditions along Greenville Loop Road in front of the subject property. And here's some more photos of adjacent land uses. There are mainly residential uses located in this area in all directions. There is vacant property adjoining to the north as well. Site's currently zoned R15, moderate density single dwelling residential district. It's bordered by R15 to the northeast and west, and there's R20 legacy zoning located across Greenville Loop Road to the south. The applicant is proposing a courtyard residential development for a 25-unit single-family or single-dwelling home project. There are also 25 accessory garages proposed. No ADUs are proposed with this project or permitted. Those are all accessory garages. There's an access provided directly from Greenville Loop Road via new public street. As you can see, it runs planned north to south on your screen, and there is a stub out for connectivity, for future connectivity to the north with a temporary turnaround, as the circle shown on the site plan. These are elevations proposed by the applicant. The site is not located in a designated area of
That last slide.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the pictures on the right upper, that's a rear view?
Those are in the top right. That would be the accessory garages.
What is on the second floor?
The applicant has stated that that is to be office space, multi-purpose space, but we have informed them that it cannot be converted into an accessory dwelling unit.
Thank you.
Yes. The site is not located in a designated area of opportunity or mixed-use center on the growth strategies map of the comprehensive plan. This proposed plan does provide an alternative development pattern, creating a community of homes oriented around shared open space that's pedestrian-centered and provides tree preservation along the corridor. This policy analysis ring shown on your screen here has been updated to accurately reflect the analysis shown in the case summary. Since this is an evidentiary hearing based solely on the testimony presented as part of this presentation and the presentation of the applicant, there's no recommendation from Planning Commission or staff on this item. In granting the request, council will need to find the 4 following findings of fact here listed on the screen and that they've been made. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant's here as well.
Very good. Are there any questions of staff in respect to the project? Okay. Just a question. Is there a deacceleration lane on this particular piece? I don't think there is, but.
I believe, sorry, there we go. I don't believe there's a right turn lane, but I will have to defer to the applicant if that's been determined yet.
I don't see one, but okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, and I apologize to the clerk for not saying my name last time. I'm Sam Potter, an attorney representing the applicant. I always get this thing wrong. Okay. Up on your screen is an artistic rendering of the project that is proposed. Can I go back to? Okay. Let's back up for a second. This is the current site. It's undeveloped. There are 2 mobile homes and some accessory buildings on the property. It's approximately 5 acres in an R15 zoning district. By right, as you all know, R15 means 15,000 square foot lots. So by right, you can do roughly 3 units per acre. The proposal on the screen in front of you is a courtyard development, and as I understand it, may be the first one that's come in front of City Council. I'm looking for heads nodding. It's not the first one. Second one, Councilman Waddell. So the idea here is that you would have internal courtyards with houses that face the courtyard. Instead of facing out towards the street, you have front porches and front yards facing inwards, essentially. And the city code that allows this requires a special use permit. And if each house is 1,000 square feet or less, you can get up to 5.1 units per acre. Hence the 25 total homes that are proposed here. There's 5 acres, 5 units per acre, 25 homes, all under 1,000 square feet of heated indoor space. Mr. O'Mahaney went through the special use permit criteria, which I know you all are well aware of. There are some specific criteria other than the 4 general criteria. There are some specific criteria, and I just want to point this out. I talked about the 5.1 units per acre, but this is also, there are restrictions on maximum building footprint that would not be present in a by right development. There are restrictions on impervious that would not be present in a by right development. They require significant amount of outdoor open space within these courtyards. It's not like a backyard in a townhouse. It's 500 square feet per dwelling unit. So with these 25 25 courtyard homes, you have 12,500 square feet of courtyard across the project. There are requirements that the courtyards be internally connected by pedestrian walkways. They require 2 canopy trees per unit, per house. So you've got to put 2 big trees per unit. So there's tree requirements, there's open space requirements, there's limitations on building footprint and impervious, all things that are not present in an R15 by right development. My client, Mr. Archer, is here, and he is super passionate about this development project and what it represents. So I'm going to turn it over to him and give you a more detailed overview, and then we'll get into Mr. Tripp, who's our engineer, and Mr. Morgan, who you all know as our appraiser, to provide testimony about some of the other criteria.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Chauncey Archer. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our community we're proposing, which Sam Potter has set up for you here. We're divided into 3 clusters of homes. There's a maximal number of 12 homes per cluster with a minimum of 4. And we have 3 in this proposed community. Cluster number 1, which is at the northern portion of our site, is a 12-home cluster. As Sam mentioned, they all face each other into a central courtyard with 2 canopy trees per property. Each property does have front porch requirements. They must be at least 8 feet deep and 8 feet wide. So that way it encourages communal engagement. Cluster number 2 on the bottom left is a 7-home cluster, which is divided by a dense tree canopy that will either be existing trees or supplemented trees to divide it from cluster number 3, which is a 6-home cluster on the bottom right. The areas that are not highlighted are the unengaged garages, which are essentially detached for each unit. To give you some examples of some elevations we have put together to illustrate the style of home that we are intending for this community, these are some examples we have. We'll have a combination of 1.5 level, potentially the stature of a two-level home as well, primarily to provide volume inside each structure. They're small spaces. They're 1,000 square feet or less, so high ceilings and really utilizing all of that space is important for people feeling like it's a little bit more of a substantial home despite taking up a smaller footprint. That's really the summary of what we're doing. And I believe we will have Phil Tripp take it from here. He's the engineer. Thank you.
Phil Tripp is a licensed professional engineer. He's the project engineer on the project. I'm going to turn it over to him. I am going to ask, per the city attorney's request, that Mr. Tripp be admitted as an expert. So he's going to start with explaining his credentials, and then he'll talk about the project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Phil Tripp. I'm a professional engineer. I've been retained to do the civil engineering for this project. I've been in the city of Wilmington. My office is 2 blocks from here at the corner of 5th and Chestnut, where I've been for the past 30 years. We are excited to be part of this. The address is 57. I do have standing.
Yes, I believe you do have standing. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks.
No objection, Your
Objection. 5651 Greenville Loop Road, 5 acres, 25 units, 53 parks. That doesn't include the detached garage parking. Project has access to water and sewer through the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. Electricity will be provided through Duke Energy. We are proposing stormwater with a treatment, stormwater pond, as you see located on the front. And secondary treatment will be provided through infiltration scattered throughout the project, as well as pervious paving. The site is relatively flat. The drainage outfall is at Greenville Loop Road. Water flows to the west, and then south under Greenville Loop Road to Hewlett's Creek. Projected traffic counts: peak hour AM is 21, peak hour PM 27. There was no traffic impact analysis required. This is Institute of Transportation Engineer, ITE, code number 210. We are, and Mr. Mayor, I believe you asked if there was a decel lane. We've got to apply through NCDOT for the driveway permit, and all that will be worked out with whatever review and approval comments they have. There very well could be. We also propose a 5-foot sidewalk along the frontage of Greenville Loop Road and both sides of the access road traveling down the west side, and then a network of sidewalks throughout the interior to service the courtyards and the individual homes. Stormwater will be...
Can I ask a question real quick? On the sidewalk on the frontage, and Tom, you may know this, I understood that this is where the Greenville Loop Trail, the Cross City Trail, is going down. Does that tie into this? It's on the other side. I'm sorry. I've got somebody. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Tripp.
Okay.
Question.
Well, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned, Mr. Tripp, that it doesn't require any traffic analysis?
Correct.
Okay, and that's because, I mean, I'm just understanding for me.
The peak hour trips are less than 100.
Okay, so if a peak hour trip is more than 100, then it's required.
A traffic impact analysis, a TIA, commonly referred
All
to.
right, and you said from your estimate, it went from 21 to maybe 27?
21 a.m., 27 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any questions, Mr. Tripp? Yes, sir, Ms. Spears.
I don't necessarily have a question for Mr. Tripp. Great information. I just wanted to point out the great sense of humor of your parents to name you Field Trip.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm sure he has.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tripp.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Potter?
Just want to ask Mr. Tripp a question and make sure we get something in the record here. The plan that's up on the screen that you've submitted does it comply with all safety regulations, fire regulations, those types of things?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Very good.
With that, I'll turn it over to Cal Morgan. He's our appraiser.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Cal Morgan. My company is J.C. Morgan Company. I'm a North Carolina certified general MAI appraiser. I've been appraising in Wilmington since about 2006, 2007. So I was recently engaged by the applicant to perform research and analysis that would enable me to conclude an opinion as to item C of the special use permit application. Item C states that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. As my expertise is in real estate valuation, I have focused my research to the valuation component of the requirement. To develop an opinion for this requirement, I researched and reviewed several developments with comparable densities and designs in our local market, as well as the properties that adjoin them. I reviewed two different issues. One, I reviewed the sales history and prices of properties that were adjacent to these developments, then compared that data to the sales history and prices of similar properties that were close by but not adjacent to those same projects to determine if there was any discernible difference in values. Two, I reviewed several newer developments considered somewhat comparable to the proposed project to determine what type of impact their overall design and appeal had on the immediate area, including adjoining and adjacent properties. Several of the higher density single-family detached, the single-family attached, and multi-family developments that I reviewed include Bentley Grove at Harvest Gardens, Summerwalk, Holly Glen Townhomes, Easton Mason, Tonbo Meadow, Tesla Park, Village at Mayfair, and Ashley Park Townhomes. Based on the data that I reviewed, there is no indication that the proposed project would have a negative impact on the adjoining or abutting property values. I can answer any questions, of course.
Are there any questions? Mr. Morgan?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. David, Mr. Joyner.
I have a question.
Mr. Joyner.
So do you have that data printed out for us? Was that submitted in the application?
So I have printouts of data that I can present.
Can I have a copy to thumb
I would
through
love
while
to
we
give-
continue on?
No one's ever asked. I would love to give you a copy.
I'd like to thumb
Yeah.
through while we continue with the hearing.
Mr. Potter, is that something that you'd like to ask to admit into evidence for the hearing?
I neglected to ask that both Mr. Tripp and Mr. Morgan be accepted as experts by council and their testimony treated as such.
No objection.
No objections.
Okay. Also, that our presentation be admitted into evidence, as well as the staff's presentation. I don't think that was specifically requested, but just want to make sure that those are in the record as well.
No objections, and they're in the record.
And Councilman Joyner, would you like me to wait to give a final presentation until you get to look at what Mr. Morgan has. I'm happy to do it either way.
I can look, I'm happy to thumb through it, and if there's something in it that I'd like to ask questions about, I'll ask questions, and I'll thumb through it as you give your final presentation. But the reason that I'm bringing this up at all is we have to find 4 specific things, and one of the 4 things that we have to find is that it's not going to have an adverse monetary value impact on the neighboring properties.
Yep.
And respectfully, what just happened is that he got up here and said, I looked at the numbers and it doesn't do that. And I think I'd at least like to look at the document that he's referencing.
Understood.
Thank you.
The final component that we haven't produced or we haven't testified about any specific evidence is regarding the comprehensive plan compliance, which is the 4th criteria. I would say that staff's report goes into a fair amount of detail about the compliance with the comprehensive plan. Certainly most of the items suggested either support or strong support based on the comprehensive plan and this particular application. So I believe that the staff's report accomplishes that, but even if it didn't, you heard me say this back in February, the inclusion of a use in a zoning district, even where a special use permit is required, establishes a prima facie case that the use conforms. So basically, just the fact that a special use permit is available means that it complies with the comprehensive plan. So rather you look at it and say, this is a great plan and it complies, but also the law says that it does just by virtue of being available. We have a number of proposed conditions. I've discussed these with Mr. O'Mahaney this afternoon. I think he thinks that several of them are not necessary because we'd be required to comply with them anyway, but I just wanted to be crystal clear that the proposed development will comply with all the landscaping requirements. I mentioned that during my opening, that there are some special landscaping requirements in terms of canopy trees and that sort of thing that are in the code that are specific to this type of special use permit. So we will comply with all of those. Each home will have a covered main porch with a minimum floor area of 75 square feet. Again, that's required by the code, but I just want to be clear in the record that every one of these houses will have a front porch with at least 75 square feet on it. There are requirements on building orientation, how the buildings face, and the portions of the buildings that face streets can't be just solid walls. Obviously, we have to comply with that as well. The maximum ground floor heated area will be 1,000 square feet per house. And the final one, this was something that came out of the community meeting with the neighbors, was there was originally a common dumpster, like a shared dumpster for each of the units. And there was some concern about smell and appearance and that type of thing. So we have removed any common dumpster from the plan and would include that as a condition that there would not be a common dumpster. With that, submit that we've submitted competent material evidence on all 4 of the general as well as all the specific criteria for the special use permit that is proposed. And I'm happy to answer any questions or call up any of the experts if you'd like to hear from Mr. Morgan or Mr. Tripp.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, my question is, do you have any idea how much these homes will go for, ballpark?
I'm certainly happy to call the developer up here. I don't personally know what they're, I mean, I would normally say whatever, however much they can sell it for. But
right.
I would, these are supposed to be nice homes. It's a nice area. I'm happy to bring up Mr. Archer if you'd like to.
I'd like to ask that, yeah, if you don't mind. Sure. Just kind of curious.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing well, doing well.
Good.
I get this question a lot, and I suppose the short answer is we don't know, but obviously marketability is important. They're small, so we have to price them accordingly, but we do have to produce a product that is befitting with the area to where it feels cohesive. Had you asked me that question 5 years ago, I felt like I could give you a much better answer, but having gone through the pandemic where prices went all over the place, I watched builders and developers struggle with commitments they made about that question because they felt like they priced either way too high or way too low, depending on what end of it they ended up on. But I suppose the simple answer would be, it would be within a dollar per foot range that would be befitting of that area or similar kind of comparable properties. I know that's not a definitive answer.
Okay, so bottom line is basically market rate.
Yeah, well, you know,
Just
it has to be equitable for everybody. You know, there's going to be residents around us who want to make sure these things aren't just given away to where they don't want to feel like, oh, there's property next door to us that's being sold for nothing. There's going to be builders who want to make sure it's worth their while. And obviously, we need to make sure that the investment we're making is equitable for us. But I think it'll be a fair market rate for what it is.
Okay, and these are single family or single person homes?
Single family, largely, I would say predominantly 2-bedroom would be the goal and the primary thrust. We do have a 3-bedroom plan that will fit. Obviously, space is a concern because, you know, people like storage, but these aren't really, these haven't really been designed for someone who has 5 children, you know, that they're going to be smaller homes. But this concept was derived from demands and need that I've come across in the real estate industry, where people are looking for smaller living, and inevitably you end up downtown because there's a lot of smaller homes here. You go to neighborhoods like Carolina Place, you know, Ardmore, even, you know, we'll say off of 7th Street or 6th Street, a lot of smaller homes there. And people say, you know, I really like this. I like the idea of a smaller home. Do you have anything else downtown? And you say, in Wilmington?
No.
You know, and the answer is no. There's nothing. So primarily this concept came from that, just an unmet need in the market, that to be able to provide something just in a different part of Wilmington that captures that character that is small.
Okay. So bottom line, maybe what, 2 or 3 people per house? 4
I
or
would
5?
imagine it might get a little tight if it's beyond there, you know, and the parking requirements would, I'd say, limit how many people really could be there. Because we only have 2 parking spaces per unit and a garage. So, I mean, if you want guests to show up, I can't imagine you'd have more than 2 or 3 people living there.
Okay. And last question, I guess, is will they be sold as homeowners, or are they renters?
We've had this question, this just came up in our community meeting. You know, there was a lot of concern, is this a build-to-rent community? Our intent is to sell to homeowners primarily because this pattern was designed to create a community, a small community in a cluster. So that's why the pattern has either 4 to 12 homes. You don't want too many houses around each other because then you start losing the whole tight-knit feel. Each home is surrounds us kind of what they call a semi-private courtyard. So it feels like it's yours, even though it's part of the community. So those 6 houses in the lower right, you know, they have a semi-private courtyard you enter into that feels like it belongs to those 6 houses there. The 7 courtyard has 7 homes looking at each other, feels like it belongs to them, and it allows them to take advantage of that green space that otherwise would just be in your backyard. A little bit backwards from what we're used to. We're all used to pulling into our garage, closing the door, you know, going into our house. Maybe we don't see anybody, you go into your backyard. This is turning that upside down, which is different. It's just a different idea than what we're accustomed to.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark? Well, we know we can't, I mean, even with a CUP, we can't tell somebody what they can charge for their property.
Sure.
We get that. And, you know, you got to make a profit. God says that's okay to make an honest profit. So, I certainly understand that we're not going to, if you quoted a price, nobody up here is going to hold you to it. But I know that the market, it can fluctuate from time to time. The 2-bedroom is predominantly the size you're doing, or are you doing some 1-bedrooms as well?
You know, we've talked about that. I think it's a tougher market for 1-bedrooms, but we may. You know, the site does have some areas that are a little tight. And, you know, assuming this comes to be a project that gets approved, We may go through TRC and say, well, we have a little corner here. We may not be able to fit a 2-bedroom on there, and we may have a 1-bedroom on there. Of course, we want to make sure it makes sense. You know, I had a builder I worked with a couple of years ago tell me this, and it made a lot of sense to me. They said, well, we can either not have 9 units and have it be stupid, or we can have 8 and have it make sense. And sometimes you have to do the thing that makes sense. I'm not suggesting that we're planning on taking anything away, because I feel like we do have room on the map with what we have to do everything we're proposing, but it could be that there may be a couple 1-bedrooms as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Andrews?
I just had a couple of questions. So you mentioned about the no common dumpsters. So how and where is trash collected?
Well, we would likely have to contract with a company like Turtle Trash. They have small trucks. I don't think on the plan we have, and this is for the city to decide. I've been involved in a few of these, and I don't know that CFPUA's trucks would go down our drive aisles to do rollout. So we would have to contract with a private company like Turtle Trash or somebody like that. It's not an endorsement, it's just an example.
And then I imagine the garages are deeded per home?
Yeah, we would have a 1-to-1 ratio. Our intent is to make sure every homeowner has a garage.
And then the parking spaces as well?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Will there be any, do you imagine that there's any guest parking beyond just 1 per home?
The parking, there are some parking restrictions with this pattern to where we had to consider having too much parking. So at this point, it may not be designed to be the best entertaining community in Wilmington, but that's why we have city parks and other places to go in the beach, I guess, to get out and about.
Okay. And then I imagine there's going to be CC&Rs that would restrict lease terms so that there wouldn't be, these wouldn't turn into short-term rentals?
Right. Potentially, you know, a lot of that comes down to property pricing and what the demographics of a particular, the makeup of a community wants. What I have seen is a community like this in this area typically does not lend itself to that. So those are always considerations we have to make.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
My question was actually the exact same as Councilmember Andrews' last question, just whether your project contemplated any covenants and restrictions that would restrict STR, short-term rentals, or have any sort of lease date requirements in there. It sounds like it's something that you are contemplating, but it's not.
Yeah,
done yet.
These are important issues for us to consider. I guess we're not quite there yet, Mr. Waddell. You know, I just didn't want to put the cart before the horse. We just have to see whether this is something we can do. I would say there has been debate just with my family, you know, friends about what would make sense there. Working in real estate, there are some realities about what type of investment or what type of property lends itself to that. I would say this is evidentiary, but this is my opinion, so I don't know if it's admissible, but it's my opinion that this community would not really lend itself to that, primarily because of the very nature of it trying to establish a community that's small within the boundaries of what we have. You know, the courtyards themselves are designed for people to get to know each other. It's forcing people really to know your neighbors. And so I suppose it becomes more difficult to do that if you have a more transient, you know, situation happening. So it is important for us to really consider the basis of the community itself. So I know that's not an exact answer, but I would say these are always leaning assertions. We're leaning towards that not really being our goal. I think it's really about creating a community to owner occupants.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just curious, have you done this before?
I have helped a builder that I've had a relationship put together 2 multifamily communities in New Hanover County. But have I been a developer in my own project and done this before? No. This is something that I've been passionate about for a while. There was a long time when I didn't know what I didn't know, and it took a lot of time and research, looking at the LDC and seeing what type of pattern really spoke to me and felt right in this area, felt like something that I wanted to be involved with. This was something that I felt passionately about. And secondly, I had a lot of conversations with planning. You know, I called the City of Wilmington Planning, and I said, you know, there's a lot of communities that are being built that seem like they're being, perceivably, who knows whether it's right or wrong, maybe jammed through. What do you guys want to see? What does the city want to see? And after reviewing the comprehensive plan, after having several of those conversations, this seemed, in our opinion, to be more of what the comprehensive plan wants versus the opposite. And that's how we ended up here.
Okay, thank you much.
Sure.
Question. If you're trying to create a community, and I guess I'm going to ask you, you're going to put a homeowners association in place, is that correct?
We have to, yeah.
Okay. And this is going to be private streets?
The right-of-way will have to be public. It's designed to be a public right-of-way per the ordinance.
So you're going to take care of the roads, because if you turn the roads over to the city, it will be a public street, as you well know.
Correct.
Which means our trash trucks will have to go in there to pick up trash. So you won't be able to go with a private service. So you're going public, you're going to go public or private?
So to answer Mr. Barnett's question, I'm not the most experienced in this myself. However, it's our understanding that the roadway must be public. We have drive aisles, we have driveways.
Doesn't have to be public, but if you so choose to make it public, then so once it's turned over into the inventory of the city, then the city, it's a public street. If it's not, it's a private street, which has other conditions where you can limit as to the type of trash trucks that you or the private services that you want.
This is why I have an older gentleman with me. He's
understand.
stepping in to help me out here.
Mr. Mayor, the main access road is proposed to be public with a temporary turnaround at the end, but the interior streets are private.
Okay.
So the trash trucks, the only trash that's going to be picked up is going to be on the interior streets.
Okay. I'm feeling, excuse me, I've never seen a situation where the main road going into the project is public and then the off-streets are private, since this is incorporating one whole subdivision, but I may have never seen, don't remember.
There's additional property behind this property, and we didn't want to cut that off. Whether this developer does, somebody's going to do something with it at some point in time, so there needed to be access to get to that project without building a second street immediately by this street. So the street itself can actually accommodate 15 more acres of property behind it.
Okay.
There's really no other way to do it unless you made it private, and then it could really get complicated down the road.
Mr. Robert, did you have a comment?
So you're looking at the street that runs north-south right here. That's the one that's going to be public?
Right.
Okay, and then the loop will be private?
Correct.
Okay. And are those streets, just probably a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, we can get our fire apparatus in there, can't we?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
So I want to go back to the question in respect to the development pattern, and I applaud the staff and everybody for coming up with this concept, and I think this is the second one we've ever seen, so it's very unusual that we see these types of development. But since we're trying to create a neighborhood here where the neighbors really know each other and becomes more intimate, would you eliminate STRs? I've seen it in other homeowners associations where you cannot do an STR. Would you consider that? And my concern is this, is that the size of the unit, the proximity to the coast, especially the beach, I could see somebody buying these things and turning them into STRs. From a residential pattern as to how people live, whether they want small homes or big homes, I get the fact that people may come out of a bigger home, may want to stay in the area, and may choose to downsize and to go something like this. I see it all over town. It's something that we need more of. But my concern has been that these things could very easily be turned into STRs, and because you have limited parking, and because you have a concept that seems to be more integrated where the neighbors are talking to each other, would you consider putting that into your homeowners documents to limit that option? And I hate taking away people's property rights, but this is kind of it's a unique concept that we have here. And I know that I see other developments where they have eliminated the STRs, especially for those that are downsizing into smaller units, where it becomes a little bit more complicated with people coming in and coming out. And I think the neighbors would probably welcome that. And I would also, I guess, and I'm just going to take a stab at this, I would imagine that these will be north of $320,000, I would imagine. I mean, I know you don't want to throw a ballpark figure, but I'm just saying north of. It could be higher, it could be lower, but I know land is very expensive, development costs are expensive, I know the infrastructure costs are extremely expensive. Is that fair?
I mean, I would suspect, yeah, probably, just because of the sheer cost and putting it together.
Okay, so north of 320, because I know that the average sale price home in New Hanover County right now is at $425,000, $435,000, so it would be north of 300 plus thousand.
I think it's difficult to find a home, in this area under that.
Okay, all right. But going back to the concept with the neighborhood concept that you have, would you consider putting that in your restrictive covenants?
I mean, we would consider that, because I don't know that that would be, I don't know that that would be an appropriate use for what we're doing.
Just because of the limitation of parking, the size of them, and, okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Reinborg, I'm sorry.
I have a question for Mr. Morgan. He could come back up.
Sir.
Cal, I just wanted to ask a question pertaining to the recent conversation up here about the use. Is that, when they asked you to come on their team and you saw the concept, did you all have a sit down, and because you're here to tell us that it's not going to affect the surrounding property owners or any of that?
Correct.
Okay. So you sit down and y'all have a conversation and they tell you they're going to, do you ever sit down with somebody and they come up with a plan, you go, hey guys, that ain't going to work, or I can't go down and give you a favorable opinion?
So yes, sir.
That does happen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In a situation like this, when they presented the Courtyard, which is not, I mean, we've seen this, we toyed with it for 2 or 3 years, and how on God's earth it's requiring an SUP now is beyond me, but here we are. So with the conversation we've just had up here about, other than single-family residents with a single family living in there as home ownership, can you go back now and look and see if it ran rampant through there, that you had, say, 60% of transient occupation? How would that not have a negative impact on the neighborhood?
So, so I did not research, like Airbnbs, buying properties to use them as Airbnbs have a positive or negative impact on values.
It didn't?
Airbnbs
Is that what you just said?
Airbnbs specifically, no. What I did is I looked at projects that I thought were, I mean, there's very few projects that are exactly like this. I mean, you can say that for any project. But I looked at nearby projects. Tonbeau Meadow, when it came out, when it was new, it was kind of unique for its time. And I looked at the sales of the Foxcroft, I think is a neighborhood that's around that. And so the most expensive sale in Foxcroft backs up to one of the houses in Tonbeau Meadow. So I look at examples like that. I handed Mr. Joyner a study of Georgetown and Tesla Park. But to answer your question specifically, because your question to me was, does the short-term rentals have a negative impact on values? I did not, that wasn't part of my, I didn't research that, so I can't answer your question as an expert witness stating that. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I appreciate that answer. But it could, couldn't it? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Cal, I swear I'm not.
I think when you remove buyers from a buyer pool, it doesn't help the price.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Joyner?
Thank you for providing this to
Yes,
us,
sir.
and I'm glad that you had it and that you said you wanted people to look at it, because I found a couple of points interesting. So I'm looking through, and probably the most helpful column is the column on the far right, which is the annual percentage change. Can you walk me through, and I mean, this is, let's go back to basics here. Walk me through how you're calculating that number. And in reading that, am I correct that when I'm looking at the far left column, I'm seeing 208, 205, like that's the street number, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
So page 2 is the map. The lots highlighted in green are the lots that back up to Tesla Park, an apartment community off South College Road. Tesla Park was there first. So I like this study because Tesla Park was there first. A developer came along and developed the Georgetown subdivision. So what was being sold was lots, vacant lots. So that removes a lot of the subjectivity from, hey, I like the granite in that house, you know, the subjectivity of houses and price per square foot in houses. So I'm comparing vacant lots, all in the same subdivision. On that map, the ones in the green are the ones that back up to Tesla Park. The ones in the pink are similar lots that do not back up to Tesla Park. So page 3 is the first kind of spreadsheet. And what that is, at the top it says, these are the properties adjacent to the Tesla Park multifamily. And on the next page, at the top it says, those are the properties not adjacent to the Tesla Park multifamily. So the last page is the pink lots, and the third page is the green lots. So on the third page, the properties adjacent to Tesla Park, if you look down in the bottom left corner where it kind of sums everything up, back when this project was developed in 2002, there were 11 lot sales, and the average lot price was a little over $69,000. On the last page, in 2002, there were only 3 sales, and that average lot price was $67,000. To answer your question, so the lot that backed up to Tesla Park actually sold for a little bit more. I mean, it's a statistical, they can't be the exact same, so one of them is going to be higher or lower. So with this, I concluded there was no difference, even though the ones that backed up to Tesla Park did sell for a little bit higher. Now, to answer your question, the annual change. So on the third page, let's look at the third property down, 4329 Tollington Drive. So that lot, all the lot sales are in red. So that lot sold, oh, I'm sorry, 4325. Okay. So what these are the sales and the resales of the same property throughout the life of that property. So the lot sale would sell, and then the home would sell, and then the home would sell again, say over a 10-year period. And that far right column is the annual change over the life of that property. So the purpose of that, because what I'm charged with is to determine, does a project have a negative impact on value? Well, a property value can still go up of an adjacent property. It can still go up and the project have a negative impact. Because if the properties away from the project are going up at 5%, and a property that's adjacent to the project is only going up at 3%, well, it's increasing, but that's still having a negative impact. So what this column does is the average annual change for the life of those properties that backed up to Tesla Park was 4.5%, and the average annual change for those properties that did not back up Tesla Park Mobile Home was, multifamily was 4.4%. Again, negligible. That's a lot of words, I'm sorry.
And what's not included on this chart is revaluations over that same time period from the early 2000s.
So this study was done for the Whiskey Creek across the street. So this study was done up through, I think, about 2020, I'm sorry, 2020.
Okay, thank you.
And I've got others, I didn't want to bombard you, but I've got other studies. So, thank you.
Could we go back to the owner, to the developer? On your homeowners' fees, and I guess you haven't calculated those yet, is that correct?
No, sir.
Will the homeowners association also maintain the exterior or the roofs of these properties, or is it going to be just, if you buy the house, you're the property owner, you maintain it on your own? The homeowners' fees would cover, would they cover that, or would they cover just maintenance of the street? What would they cover?
We haven't gotten that far, Mr. Sappho, but that hasn't been discussed. We haven't brought that up as a
Would you consider it? And the only reason I'm saying would you consider it, I kind of look at this a little bit of a patio home concept too, because of the size and because of the closeness of these units, and just make sure that everybody is the same, so that when the units, or when the roof or the maintenance of these units need to be taken care of, if a property owner for one reason or another can't take care of it, there's a homeowners association that will take care of it from one way or the other. I'm just thinking that this is not a single family R15, R20 lot where somebody, off the road there with a two-car garage and what have you, but this is a lot more closer proximity. I've seen it in other neighborhoods where it's kind of more of a patio home concept. The homeowners association does repair the roofs or replace the roofs when needed.
It would be our preference, and these aren't decisions that have been made yet, but it would be my preference to have that be the homeowner's responsibility, but to have HOA guidelines that enforce architectural controls. That way there are minimum standards that need to be met.
Okay. And so we don't have a number yet as to what that homeowners, you don't know that as of yet?
I don't have that information.
And when would you determine that? Would you determine that near the end of the development, or would you determine that at the beginning? Obviously, you'd have to determine it before you start selling it, so you have to share that information with a potential homeowner.
In my experience in facilitating those other communities, that estimation came at the end once the construction was coming to a close. So that way the full, I guess, in particular landscaping, things of that nature could be assessed on what would be required to maintain the community.
Okay, and on the calipers of trees, I know Mr. Potter indicated you have to put a certain size caliper. What is the size of the caliper of the shade tree or the tree? Do we know, staff? Is it 5 inches, 20 inches? What is it?
Yeah, it's required 2 canopy trees, which would be per code 2-inch caliper at time of planting.
2-inch caliper. Okay. Okay, Mr. Einbrook.
So your common area would be taken care of by you, the developer, or the HOA would collect dues and they'd take care of the common areas?
Correct.
The private streets and all that?
Correct.
Okay.
How about the yards?
Well, I think you just told the mayor that the owner was going to be responsible for their plot, their yard, their house, their roof, their exterior walls, all that.
That's the working assumption, yes.
Okay. I appreciate that. I got a question for our staff. Since this is a special use permit, what would it take? Do you have to go completely through TRC and have the final plan before there would be something in there that they could violate that would cause this permit to be rescinded? Is that a fair statement? I mean, we can't, tonight I couldn't ask you what would it take to invalidate this permit, because you don't know what the final plan's going to look like. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir. This is unique in that once the project's developed, it's basically going to remain in compliance unless they start tearing stuff down and rebuilding. So,
Or doing something.
right. So, if, like the applicant offered the condition to not have a dumpster out there for the community. If we came out there one day and found a dumpster, they'd be in violation of their special use permit.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing.
The worst damn thing about a dumpster is they come clanging at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake up the entire neighborhood. They don't smell that bad. It's just they're noisy. So, but I wasn't assuming that these folks are going to do something that would get more than a slap on the wrist, but that you can't determine what that would be until after the plan is all the I's are dotted and T's crossed. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Joyner, Mr. Morgan has additional data to back up his opinion, if that would help, including 2024 project. Again, I've been doing this for a while, and it's been a long time since I've had somebody question an appraiser, and I want to satisfy you. That's why I'm asking. I understand your skepticism, well, not skepticism, but I understand your inquiry. I think this is the normal presentation when we do this, so that's why I'm accustomed to doing what we've done so far, but I also want to satisfy your inquisitive questions.
I'm not going to say on the record that I'm satisfied. If there's additional evidence that you think you need to present, then let's do that. But at the end of the day, you've decided to move forward with a process that requires us to take off our city council member hats and put on a quasi-judicial hat, and I feel like I have a responsibility to perform that function.
Understood. With that being said, I'm going to ask Mr. Morgan to come up here and produce that 2024 data, if that's all right with you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
So I'm just going to provide a couple more summaries. Some of these have older data just because I can't pick, it's hard to find a great project with sales that sold right up against it. They didn't all happen last year. Sometimes you got to go back to find the dates of the match paired sales, because I got to find a property that's adjacent to the project and a very similar property that's not adjacent to the project, and they got to be in the same time frame so they're not impacted by market conditions. But here's a summary of the Bellmead Apartments off of Carolina Beach Road. There's a small cul-de-sac of single-family homes right behind it, and I paired the two homes closest to the apartment project to the remaining homes, the two homes closest to the apartment project to the remaining homes on that little street. You can't see this, I'll hand it out, but each sale is presented on a trend line. It shows where the two houses closest to the project are. And then a more recent project is, everybody knows where the Galleria site is on Wrightsville Avenue. The lot sales behind that in that new subdivision. That's just a quick summary of what I'm handing out.
For a second, I got to ask a question. He's got to put some data on.
And Mr. Morgan, just one follow-up question. Being a licensed appraiser, do you have ethical and professional standards that affect your ability to give opinions that you're giving here today?
Yes, sir. USPAP is our professional standards. I'm on the North Carolina Appraisal Board. I've been an expert witness in numerous courts. My resume is on the back of the letter that was handed out. To answer your question, Mr. Rivenbark, I've never met the developer before tonight. I'm submitted the package, and I provide an opinion, and if they want me to come and speak, then I come and speak. You don't see me at the ones where they don't like my opinion, because there's a few of them, but they don't hire me to come up here and tell them that it's going to have a negative.
Well, I can assure you from this chair, nobody, I wouldn't think, is questioning your integrity. I promise. I mean, I know your work.
Yes, sir.
I mean, and that speaks volumes from where I sit. But, you know, we're trying to stay within the quasi-judicial rules and regs too. So anyway, I think we've had some good questions and you've had some good answers. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You'll be better on the next one.
And Mr. Morgan, I just want to echo what Councilman Rivenbark said. I hope this doesn't come across as me trying to question your integrity or your professionalism or your capabilities. I'm sure that you're very experienced and capable. What I am doing is I am cognizant of the fact that if we vote in a way that the applicant does not like, they will walk across the street and file a lawsuit with the courthouse. And so I'm following every detailed step of this process because candidly, we are having a conversation outside of this hearing. We are having a separate conversation with our planning board about whether this process should be on the books in the city of Wilmington at all. Thank you.
I come up here and I give a lot of the same presentations. I like when people ask the questions because I like talking about real estate.
Sure. I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you didn't present this to us at first?
I bring this to every hearing. No one's ever asked for it.
Okay.
Because most of the time, my item C is not an issue. I get up here, stormwater's an issue, traffic's an issue, so I'm trying to be concise and not take up a lot of time.
Yeah. And I guess I meant, why didn't you add this part to what you gave us the first time? That's what I'm asking. Like, this is more later data, right?
More
I guess
what?
I'm asking, when you gave us this sheet, why didn't you add this one to it?
I
Okay.
didn't know how many were wanted.
All right, no problem.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate the information.
Mr. Potter, come up here a second. I'm going to reiterate, I know that we cannot regulate STRs. I know that we were challenged at the Supreme Court in the state and we lost. And I know we can't do that. But if it's not going to be if it's going to be allowed in this without addressing it in the homeowners association, then I have a concern about additional parking for this. And somebody's going to have to address that, because even though your owner is going to be selling these properties, I cannot determine whether an individual owner may turn around and buy that property and then put it out for an SDR with the limited amount of parking that I'm seeing. That's a concern of mine. And so I'm asking the question right now, would that be something you would consider eliminating and putting into your homeowners association documents?
So I can't help that I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to parse every word that
Well,
you said. Right?
you do whatever you got to do, and I know, I'm sure the court will settle it, but
So-
I have a real concern about that.
Well, so your question is, would they consider it, right? They obviously have said that they would consider it, you know, representing lots of developers. Most developers who do single-family projects end up having a restrictive covenant. Maybe it's 30-day lease, maybe it's 6 months. They're all different. They're all over the place, whether you're talking about the Cape or you're talking about any of these places that are attractive to short-term rentals. And even if the developer came in and put those in their restrictive covenants, once they sell each of the houses, there's a process to amend those covenants. And so the people who buy them could decide that they wanted to amend them, right? So I think, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to ask a question. Are you asking us to offer as a condition of the special use permit that we limit short-term rentals?
I would say not allow. I mean, River Place doesn't allow them. Independence East doesn't allow. I can go down the list of places that are not allowing them. My concern is, based on the size, the scope of this project, I think it's a great project, don't get me wrong, but based on the size and the scope of it, my concern is once he sells
Right.
and he's gone, that could very well happen. Now I'm stuck with a very limited amount of parking, and we can't control on STRs who's coming in. Heck, we could have a band of people come in and,
Right.
4, 5, 6 people staying in a 1,000-square-foot unit. I've seen it happen. I've heard of it.
Sure.
So that's my concern. And of course, if I was going to buy here, I'd want to know that, because if I was buying, and I'm buying in a neighborhood that I want to be part of a neighborhood with other people, they're sitting on my front porch and talk to them, I'd be daggone if I'd want to see somebody just flying in there and, hey, I'm going to be here for the weekend, I got a couple of my friends, and we're having a good time, and we're
Yeah.
back out the door, and you're parking all over the place, and then those people don't know when they come in, is the parking available? Who parks where? I think just because of the size and the scope of the layout, if you're going to put them in there, then you have to take into consideration, whether it happens or not, some additional parking. I'm there to protect him as much as I am the neighbors also. So, and this is just a fact of life that we have here in resort areas like ours.
Just one, can you give me
Yeah, go ahead. If you need a couple of minutes, think about it.
Okay. My client is a thoughtful person.
He seems to be.
He has lots of opinions, and his opinion on this is that your request is reasonable, and I hate to have negotiations in public.
We can give you 5 minutes if you need 10
Well,
minutes.
no, we have a proposal. It would be a 3-month minimum lease. Would that satisfy your
I don't have a
concern?
problem in them leasing the properties. That's going to happen. We can't determine if somebody buys a property wherever in this city. I can't tell you whether you can lease it or not. I get that. My bigger concern is on the STRs.
Well,
It's
that's what
like
I
it
was
could be
getting
a
at.
week. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You want to say
A
if it's
minimum
if
3
it's
months.
of a 3-month. Well,
I'm trying to make things easier for the city attorney and I when we
Well,
have to figure
it's
out
much
how
more
to-
palatable, I'll say that, because if somebody's coming in here, let's just say he's coming in here to shoot a movie, I mean, we see
Right.
that, and we see a lot of corporate clients come in, want to stay for a short duration. I can live with that, but it's something on a weekly basis, daily basis, no.
We're willing to offer a condition that there would be a restrictive covenant placed on the project that would limit leases to no less than 3 months.
Okay.
Well, the people that you're protecting are your your community. I've seen too many developments, Mr. Potter, years ago where we were real tight on parking, trying to cut it down, and you ride through, Varsity Drive comes to mind, big time. I mean, you ride through there, and I mean, they're parked right up to the front door because there's 4 and 5 people living there. This is a nice neighborhood, and this is a good-looking project. It really is. I like the Courtyard thing.
I think it's really cool. I'm actually kind of excited about it.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Potter.
Thank you.
Where do we go from here, Meredith? Yeah.
I think at this point, if council does not have any more questions, then at this point, you can close the hearing, and I don't believe there's anything else to be admitted into evidence. I think the additional information that Mr. Morgan brought up, I assume you're asking for that to be admitted as well, and we don't have an objection. I'm sorry, does staff have another comment, Brian?
We would just like to ask that staff report and materials be entered to the record.
Very good.
May I clarify, Meredith? The 2 additional items that the applicant has entered are titled Airly at Wrightsville Sound and Belmead. Is that correct?
Correct. Those were in the second group that he sent, and then the first was his letter with the other references.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions from council? Okay. I'm going to close the quasi-judicial hearing at this time, and I'm going to recognize our city attorney again, Ms. Meredith Everhart, to state the 4 findings that city council must make in order to grant the special use permit.
Thank you, sir. Based upon Section 18-589D2 of the Wilmington City Code, the 4 factors that council would have to find would be A, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed, and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved by the issuance of the SUP. And B, that the use meets all required conditions and specifications. And C, that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. And D, that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located, and in general conformity with adopted comprehensive plans, the CAMA plan, and adopted special use plans. That information is listed on the consistency statement that I presented that all of you should have a copy of on the dais, and whoever decides if there is a motion to accept or to approve would need to read that entire statement. I know it's a little bit longer than our typical SUP, but there are findings of fact that have to be made, and you have to specifically state that those conditions have been met.
And we will also insert into the special use permit that a minimum of a 3-month lease.
Yes, sir. If someone were to make a motion to incorporate that, they'd move to make a motion to accept these with that clarification that any homeowners' declarations would include a minimum of 90 days for any type of short-term rental.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay. All right, we have a motion here, Councilman Reinbach, second by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
And my motion includes Ms. Everhart's statement
Yes, sir.
regarding STR or the 90-day minimum lease. This is a consistency statement for public hearing 2 and SUP. City Council, having heard all evidence and arguments presented at the hearing, makes the following findings of fact. 1, the site includes approximately 5 acres of land, approximately 217,800 square feet, zoned R15, moderate density single-family, single-dwelling district, and contains 2 manufactured homes and 4 storage buildings. 2, the courtyard developments are defined in the city's Land Development Code, LDC, as a type of detached housing providing small residences for smaller households with homes oriented around a central open space courtyard. 3, courtyard developments requires a special use permit, SUP, in the R15 zoning district. The applicant proposes a 25-unit single-dwelling detached residential courtyard development with detached garages. The homes will front the courtyards with the garages facing outward towards the access drives. Accessory dwellings are not proposed. 5, compliance with all site plan requirements shall be enforced as part of the final review and approval by the city's Technical Review Committee, the TRC. Access to the site will be from a new public road off of Greenville Loop Road. Based upon the foregoing findings of fact, the City Council draws the following conclusions as required by Section 18-589 D2 of the City of Wilmington Land Development Code. A, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved by the issuance of the SUP. And B, the use meets all required conditions and specifications. And C, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. And D, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with adopted comprehensive plans, the CAMA plan, and adopted special area plans. Therefore, because the City Council concludes that all general and specific conditions precedent proceeding to the issuance of a special use permit have been satisfied, it is ordered that the application for the issuance of a special use permit be granted, subject to the specific conditions listed in the ordinance.
Okay. Ready to vote? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 6-1. Do we have the motion to waive second reading, or do we need to do that, Ms. Mayor? Yes, we do.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilman Rivenbark. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances. Item O1 is an ordinance making appropriations to the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. This time I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Tom Moten. Mr. Moten.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Laura Motel, Budget Director, will provide information on this item as well as the succeeding three.
Hour and 25 minutes.
That was a short one.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. We're here for the second reading to hopefully adopt the FY26 budget. We have one change from the last time, and I'd like to just quickly walk you through the changes since the recommended budget. We have things that were related to HUD entitlement, agency adjustments, and the mounted horses, all of which were either budget adjustments that we found in the budget or we raised revenue by about $400,000. And those will be indicated on the slides to follow. The HUD entitlement usually comes in after the recommended budget, and it did come in where there was a slight change to the transfer to our admin fund, which is all our employees who do those services. And to keep that whole, we had to kind of transfer some of the shifts back and forth so we could make it whole. And the general fund portion that has dedicated amount shifted from gap financing instead and went up to the CDBG admin fund. And it was only around $9,000. The agencies that we added, Downtown Business Alliance is getting $10,000. This is going to be in the competitive process for 3 years. We have Voyager, which is getting an additional $40,000. This is going to be a one-year commitment because the competitive process for those human services will be next year. And then the YMCA, which is $15,000, also a one-year commitment until the next process. And then the mounted horses were put back. And that would be the changes that we have.
Are there any questions from council as relates to item O1? Okay.
Laura, over here.
All right, thanks.
Sorry.
Yes, sir, Kevin.
I know you're used to me not being here, but I'm over here. So you mentioned the addition of the mounted units being added back, but that is just for 1 year, right? Or until, I thought that's what the consensus was. They were added back for a year and for the incoming city manager to make the decision.
If that's the case, they would make the decision in their next recommended budget. I didn't put it in as 1 year. I can put it in as 1 year, but we will make sure that she understands that.
This budget obviously is just for FY 25-26, but it was with the understanding that the new chief, upon employment, would do an assessment of the department as well as the efficacy of the mounted patrol and make recommendations in the subsequent budget.
Yep.
So yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have that understanding.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Then I'll ask the council to call for a vote for item O1, which is the ordinance making appropriations to the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, on the second reading. I can't see it from on my. Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Andrews has a motion and Councilmember Robert Barker has seconded. All in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, one nay. All right, and I'm aye. There you go. All right. All right, thank you. The ayes have it, it's so ordered. Doesn't need a second reading. All right, item O2 is an ordinance making appropriation to the grant project financial plans, enterprise fund, debit services fund, special tax district, and convention center fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, items 02, 03, and 04 are second readings.
Yes,
Staff
sir.
doesn't have a presentation. Nothing's changed since the first reading. So if you want to just take the reading of each one and then vote, you're certainly fine. If you have questions, staff is available. Laura Martell is available to answer questions
Okay.
regarding the budget.
All right, anyone on the council have any questions? Item O2. All right. Oh, yes, sir, Kevin.
I do have a question, and it was in the, since '02, '03, and '04 are all lumped together, it was about the rentals as it relates to parks and recreation. Hold on, I took a picture of it earlier. Because I in the last meeting that we had, I was asking about the allocation amount from funds that would be reinvested back into facilities. And I thought there was an increase, but in this, so for facilities for nonprofits and for-profit rentals, MLK is $20 per hour. For nonprofits, $35 per hour for for-profit or private rentals. But then in the bottom, it's $1 of the rental fee will be committed
Yes,
for
sir.
improvements and maintenance of these facilities.
Right. So that question pertains to item 04, and just to sort of elaborate, the fee manual includes adjustments of fees based on the policy the council adopted regarding cost recovery for user services and programs. And $1 of the fee system is set to go into committed programs, with some of it intended for scholarships, grants, but also to help support the building. That's been a long-standing practice of the city. If you think about Legion Stadium, we have $1 of committed revenue. We have $1 committed revenue also for Riverfront Park, or what we call Live Oak Bank Pavilion. We saw the opportunity to extend that committed revenue so each facility, through its activity, could help support some specific improvements within it.
Right, you're not answering my question. I'm asking that, yeah, you're right, that has been a long-standing practice of $1. But what I'm asking is, and I've asked on multiple occasions when we're doing this budget, why don't we increase the $1?
Well,
and I asked Amy that in the last meeting, and I'm not gonna say I believe, she said that it had been increased, but for the rental piece, it has not. Now, maybe for the recreational piece, as far as activities, participation, things of that nature, I saw $5, but $1 for maintenance and fees is, to me, it's just not enough, especially if you got $20 an hour, but $1 goes towards the maintaining and upkeep of a building, of the facilities. I don't quite think that's sufficient enough.
Right, so I think a couple of things in this budget. The user cost recovery study recognized that there were certain programs and services being subsidized heavily by essentially property tax revenues in the general fund. And this year, the budget, without trying to get to a full implementation, council supported the implementation of a greater cost recovery, so the fees across the board, for the most part, were increased to recognize a certain recovery threshold. I don't really have a recollection during the budget discussion, and I apologize, about specifically increasing the committed revenues. That's something that staff will be happy to work on and bring back early in the budget cycle for next fiscal year. But I just didn't have that recollection, and I apologize on behalf of staff that that's something that we didn't attend to.
All right, Tom.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion from Councilman Salet for this item 02. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Spears. You heard the question. All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it, and it is so ordered. All right. Then item 03, of course, is an ordinance making appropriation to the capital project funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Any questions from the council? All right. If I'll entertain a motion. I've got a motion by Councilmember Salette, seconded by Councilmember Robinbach. All those in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and it's so ordered. No need for a second reading. Item 04.
Item 04 is an ordinance amending the various chapters of the City of Wilmington fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Are there any questions from council in respect to the ordinance? If not, what are the wishes of council? We have a motion approved by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Item 05 is an ordinance making a supplemental appropriation of $1,591,427 in surplus revenue to the general fund. Again, I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Moten. Mr. Moten.
Mr. Mayor, staff presentation by Laura Mortel, Budget Director.
Good evening again. Tonight you have an ordinance in front of you for consideration that will appropriate $1.5 million to the general fund. It's really an administrative action that we're trying to not have a violation in the general fund, a budget violation towards the end of the year. We have three specifically, instances where we couldn't estimate some of these things that are coming in a little higher, and you'll understand why. Health insurance claims, you just never know what's going to happen during the year. We've also had some pharmacy expenses go up, and so we are in need of appropriating money to help us with that. For example, one claim was $700,000. We have workers' compensation settlements. Those come at any point in time, and we have about $258,000 of that we need to have budget for specifically. And then lastly, we have some North Carolina state retirement system, people who have left who haven't contributed enough to pay them out, and we are responsible to pay them and have a liability. And so we believe that this $1.5 million will ensure that the general fund will be whole, and anything that's not used will just fall back to fund balance.
Okay, very good. Any questions from council? If not, what are the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance? We have a motion approved by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Andrews. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Joyner. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to item 06, which is ordinance authorizing additional spending authority related to opioid settlement funds in the amount of $40,000 to be provided to New Hanover County. At this time, I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Moten. Mr. Moten.
Mr. Mayor, if you remember during the agenda review, a question arose regarding the use of the opioid settlement funds. Those are restricted funds, and the response was provided by Finance Director Martha Wayne, who's here to present information on this particular item.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. An ordinance was approved in September of 2024 at the council meeting that was appropriating settlement funds and related interest earnings totaling approximately $140,000 to New Hanover County. The ordinance before you tonight is an administrative ordinance, and it's essentially the amount of funding that we received was slightly higher than we expected. So what we are proposing is to increase the amount of funding being sent to New Hanover County for this project by $40,000. These funds will be spent in accordance with the spending plan that was created jointly by the city and the county that implements education, outreach, access to services and treatment, and sustainable recovery and wellness programs to combat the opioid epidemic. The city will continue to receive annual reporting and be involved in deciding the programs funded, even though the city's opioid settlement funds will be redirected to the county beginning July 1, 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Mr. Joyner.
Just wanted to say thank you for following up on this and I'm just going to repeat this because I think it bears repeating for clarity's sake. The reason that I was curious about this is because I read that as the county was doing their budget, one of the directives that the commissioners had had for their staff was that they wanted to look into use of a substance use disorder fund, and that's separate and apart, and thank you for confirming that for me, from this opioid settlement fund. And the good news is that we recently had a presentation as a part of our budget work sessions for this year from folks at the county who came over and gave us an update on the opioid crisis, and the numbers are really headed in the right direction. And I know a lot of people have worked very hard on that, from the legal teams that worked on this to get the settlement done, to the folks who have gotten the finances in the door and managed them, to the people who are out doing the treatment and the work on the street to get people the help that they need. And so thank you to everybody who's been involved in that process. Thank you again for confirming that these funds are going to be protected and restricted. Thank you to Councilman Waddell, who is the city's representative on that joint task force. And let's keep up the good work on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What are the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance? I'm sorry, Mr. Spears?
Can you
Before
come
we
back?
vote?
So, yeah. What is the split between the county and the city in the opioid settlement? Because doesn't the county take the lead as to what we get as?
The funding currently, it's ever evolving because additional settlements are coming into place. Right now, the grand total between the city and the county is approximately, let's see, I think it is up to around $36 million. Of that, the majority of funds were directly allocated to the county. The city's portion is more in the 4% range. And so the majority of the funds, based on how the MOA was set up, is allocated directly to the county.
Okay, and so basically you said we're in the 4%, so it's a 96%, 4% split? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the majority of the funds, it was allocated based on an agreement that was decided on at the state.
But it's 96-4 split, that's what you're
The
saying?
majority of the funds do go directly to the county.
Yes, sir.
And so we got overpaid $40,000 and we're committing to give $40,000 back.
No,
Well-
we didn't get overpaid. This is just a new settlement that wasn't included originally, so this is additional money. The county also got additional money that was a lot more than 40,000, another 96% more out of this settlement. So this is just our portion of this.
So we're getting an extra amount of money.
Yes, sir.
We're not giving any extra money to the county.
Correct. That we're
Okay,
getting
that's-
the extra amount of money and we're allocating it to them through our agreement.
That
Oh,
is correct.
But they
And-
got their own allocation as well.
Okay.
And we're also earning, our estimated interest earnings were a little bit higher than initially anticipated. So some of the additional funding was not only from additional settlement funding, but also some additional interest earnings on funding we had already received that we hadn't anticipated
I
originally.
got you now. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion approved by Councilmember Waddell and seconded by Councilmember Joyner. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Rivenbark, seconded by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item, which is item 07, which is an ordinance to amend various funds to comply with accounting requirements of GASB Statement Number 87 regarding leases and Number 96 regarding subscription-based information technology agreements. Again, I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Tom Moten. Mr. Moten.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mayor Pro Tem, this item will be presented by Martha Wayne, Finance Director.
Good evening again. The ordinance before you this evening is essentially, it's an administrative ordinance to record the impacts of GASB 87, which is related to leases, and GASB 96, which is related to subscription-based information technology arrangements. These standards require the city to record a right to use of assets as a liability for the term of the lease or subscription, similar to a debt payment, rather than essentially recording these expenses as annual expenses. The change in accounting for these items requires the budget to record the full value over the entire life of the lease or the term of the subscription agreement, and whenever it exceeds 1 year. And so this is essentially an amendment to get us in compliance with accounting standards. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. It's coming from the state.
It's actually the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, so it's a national board.
Okay, very good. All right. What are the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance? We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, second by Councilmember Andrews. Further discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Rumbark, seconded by Councilmember Joyner. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which are our resolutions. Item R1 is a resolution authorizing filing of condemnation actions for acquisition of conservation easements, permanent drainage easements, and temporary construction easements for Stage 2 of the Wisteria Clearbrook Drainage Improvement Project. And again, I'd like to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Tom Moten. Mr. Moten?
Staff presentation by Michael Satterfield, Assistant City Attorney.
Evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The resolution before you tonight is a resolution authorizing the filing of condemnation actions in connection with the Wisteria Clearbrook, actually Stage 2 of the Wisteria Clearbrook Drainage Project. If I can get technology to cooperate. Okay. This doesn't have my PowerPoint up. Dylan, I'm sorry. Is it the very, now we go. Sorry about that. There are 4 potential condemnations for this project that are outstanding. That would involve the acquisition of conservation easements, permanent drainage easements, and temporary construction easements. And the acquisition needs to be completed by July 14th to keep the project on schedule. This is a map that shows the location of the 4 projects that we're looking at the potential for filing. As far as attempts to resolve these claims, staff has communicated offer letters to all owners. The city attorney has also reached out to all owners prior to condemnation. Actually, 3 have accepted, but they've not closed. Part of the issue there is lender consents are required due to the size of the takings. We would continue to negotiate with the owners and work to resolve all issues before and after the filing of the condemnation. As far as the barriers that we encounter with the resolution of these claims, sometimes we just receive no response from owners. Sometimes there are differing expectations as to compensation and adjustments that could be made to the plans. The lender's consents can be time-consuming, getting in touch with the proper party, the proper department to get what we need. And again, we're asking for authorization to file just to adhere to the construction schedule so that the project can be bid by engineering. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the status of the negotiations, and the project engineer, Zach Roman, is also here to answer any technical questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Satterfield's staff? Okay, thank you, sir. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilman Ravenbrook, second by Councilmember Waddell. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R2, which is a resolution authorizing an upset bid process to lease property at 929 North Front Street. This time I'd like to recognize again our interim city manager, Mr. Tom Moten. Mr. Moten.
Yes, sir. Information about this item will be presented by Economic Development Director Aubrey Parsley.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The resolution before you tonight is one that is a bit different than the other lease resolutions you've seen in the past and the other upset bid resolutions you've seen in the past. North Carolina General Statute requires that when a lease exceeds 10 years, that a local unit of government procedurally treat it as a sale through one of the other mirroring one of the other authorized disposition methods, public auction, sealed bid, or upset bid. So the resolution before you tonight exceeds that threshold of 10 years. Thus, we are presenting you with or requesting the authority to authorize an upset bid to lease property at the Skyline Center, 929 North Front Street, specifically what we're calling Suite 800, which you see here on the slide. This is on the 8th floor of the Skyline Center. This represents about 22,500 rentable square feet of the floor, and you can see the entire area being everything except what is hatched on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there is what's for lease consideration tonight. The lease parameters that we received as our initial bid is for those 22,500 square feet on the 8th floor. Like all the other leases we've done in the building, we are considering a full-service lease. And again, what sets this one apart from other opportunities we've had in the past is that this one carries an initial committed term of 132 months, which would begin the sooner of April 1st of next year, or upon a certificate of occupancy, should that be sooner. The initial rent will be $541,920, and then would escalate by 2.5% per year thereafter. As is consistent with market for leases of this size and that have this level of term, there is a $300,000 market rate abatement. Also, when you have tenants of this scale and size, there's typically investment required in the space. The city staff opted to negotiate a setup where the tenant would front the capital to make the improvements to the space, and so there is an additional investment incentive of up to $800,000 where the city would match on a dollar-for-dollar basis any permanent real property improvements that would stay with the building, stay with the public property, so there'd be enhancements to the public property. This lease would come with two options to renew at 5 years each, so the total lease term could be 21 years. It also comes with the right of first refusal to expand to the contiguous space on the floor, and there is an early termination clause after 72 months of that initial term. It would require a 12-month notice and the reimbursement of all abatement received under the contract. So just to zoom out for a moment and overview all of our leases and put this one in the context of what we have already on the books, there are currently 13 active leases in Skyline Center. You've seen them on your agendas over the previous months and years. They come in with varying terms and certainly with varying sizes. If we were to add up the total revenues from the committed terms of these leases, the remaining committed terms on the 13 active leases we have, the total revenue on those leases would be just about $5.8 million. For context, this lease that's being proposed to authorize an upset bid for tonight, depending on the level of investment, would effectively double that number, if not more, by bringing another $5.7 to $6.5 million of committed revenue under lease to the Skyline Center. Again, just to put this one in context with some of the other leasing activity we've had over the last 2 years now that we've been managing this asset. When we took over as part of the transaction, we all know that Thermo Fisher ended up leasing 2 floors in the building, so that started us out at 55,000 square feet of space. In our first fiscal year, as we were getting up and running, we added about 12,000 square feet of net leases in the previous fiscal year. And in the current fiscal year that we're in, that number jumped up considerably to about 30,000 square feet. But we do have some leases that are set to expire next year, about 15,000 square feet worth. So I just want to put that into context of where we started and where we're going. One thing I will say, and I think it's important to consider as part of this overall resolution tonight and this lease opportunity specifically, is that if you take the average of what we've been doing per year on lease up, it comes out to about adding 20,000 square feet a year. And currently in the building, we still have available for lease about 80,000 square feet. So you think about that, you say, okay, I have about 4 years based on my current track record that it would take to lease up the space. So I say that and I bring up these statistics just to show that there really is no opportunity cost or missed opportunity for the way we structured this lease on the abatement side of things. The upset bid process is what we will follow, just as we have done procedurally for sales. This is a slide you all have seen before and will be in the next presentation as well. The initial bid is always privately negotiated. It's brought before council for a vote to accept the bid and authorize the upset bid process. Should council vote to initiate that process tonight, we would publish a notice. We put in the order tomorrow. It would be published the following Monday, and then the process would run for 10 days. Bids would be due in 10 days, and if no bids are received, no subsequent council vote is required. However, if an upset bid were to come in that increased the bid amount by 10% of the first $1,000 and 5% of the remainder thereafter, then the process would repeat itself and council would be, another action would be brought back to council to put, to authorize the final acceptance of the final bid. Then it would go under contract and would go to, in this case, closing the overall lease agreement. So the timeline, as I just went over, would be, again, if council votes in the affirmative tonight, placing that order for the legal notice tomorrow. The bid form would also be available on our website. We'd make everything live on June 23rd, which is this coming Monday, and bids would be due by 3 p.m. on July 3rd. And again, if no bids are received, the process is over, no further council actions required. If we do receive an upset bid, the process continues to repeat itself until there are no more upset bids. So this is all information I've previously spoken to. For those that are interested, we will have this form available online at wilmingtonnc.gov/bids, and we'll have forms printed out for folks who want to come to Skyline Center and pick one up as well. In the lobby, they'll be available for anybody to come and pick up. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Any questions of staff?
Do we have people looking at that floor?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Okay.
We have one interested party.
Okay.
Very good. All right. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Further discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next one is item R3, which is a resolution to authorize upset bid process for 2451 South College Road. Again, I'd like to recognize our interim center manager, Mr. Tom Moten. Mr. Moten.
Sir, Mr. Parsley will present this item as well.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Dylan, I have a R3 presentation in there as well. So as was stated in the title of the resolution, this is to authorize another upset bid process, this time for a sale of 2455 South College Road. Folks might be more familiar with it as our former Southeast Command Center, right there at the intersection of College and Shipyard. We received a bid of $1 million from Vinny Incorporated. The bid that was received would contemplate a non-warranty deed. The sale would be as is, where is, and it would be set to close in 30 days after the city executes the bid, assuming that no upset bids were received as a part of the upset bid process here. That could be as early as August of well, really this next month. So here is where the property is. As I mentioned, it's on the corner of Shipyard Boulevard and South College Road. It has two zonings. It's regional business in R15. The back, maybe fifth of it is zoned R15. It sits on 0.8 acres of land. The city acquired it back in 2008 and used it as offices for multiple functions at WPD. It was vacated just this year in January as our WPD figured out other means by which to relocate the various divisions that were in there. Partially that includes what's becoming available at Skyline Center is helping them make that transition as well as some of our other surplus property. It has been on the market for about 120 days. Our listing went live back in February. We've had many showings, many interested parties. This is a property that requires a certain type of buyer. It is a bit of a fixer-upper project, and it's taken really this time for folks to do their due diligence and for an offer that is credible to appear. Again, this is going to go through the upset bid process. So if council were to vote in the affirmative tonight to authorize the upset bid process, we would publish a notice, and bids would be due 10 days thereafter. If no bids are received, no further votes required. If we do get a bid, the process continues to repeat itself until we do not receive a bid. The changes I had did not save, unfortunately, but this would follow the same timeline as I previously had on the other slide. We would publish that notice in the newspaper on this coming Monday, and bids would be due 10 days from there on July 3rd. Apologies for not having that information correct on the previous slide, but that timeline will be very clear in the public advertisements and as well as on the form that are available on the wilmingtonnc.gov/bids. The bid would have to be raised by 10% of the first $1,000 and 5% of the remainder. To secure a bid, you do have to have a certified check or money order for a sale such as this, and all of those bids need to be delivered to the clerk's office, as has been our standard procedure for all these surplus property sales. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Waddell and then Mr. Rivenbark.
Mr. Parsley, you're probably sick of me asking this every time we dispose of surplus property, but do we anticipate utilizing the funds from that sale to go towards the variable rate debt of the purchase?
Yes, sir.
All right. And do we know what that will take us to? Sorry.
My recollection is there's a principal balance on that LOB. I'm sorry. Mary, do you want to?
I'll go. Well, I think they turned me on. It's already included in next year's budget that you approved tonight. If you recall, when we adjusted the tax rate, we included sale of surplus property at a certain amount, and the estimate for this property was included in that, sir.
Excellent. All right. And then this is from the previous one, but I just kind of thought of it. Do you know what if that upset bid carries through and that lease gets executed, that 11-year lease, you know what that kind of will take our total annual lease revenue to, just a general number?
So it would presently it's presently about $2.5 million, just using round numbers as our annual operating revenue. Depending on that level of investment that's made, that would alter the timeline of revenues. We do have some other lease-up activity that creates a little bit of change in those incoming revenues. So it's a question that's unfortunately a little more difficult to answer. Say for FY26, there won't be much impact, but going into the future, there certainly will be, especially when the stability kicks in again, and we know the level of investment, which I imagine we'll know a lot more about that toward the end of this year and into early next year.
I ask all that just to say I want to thank you and the staff, all the rest of the staff who's been working hard on this. This is really a realization of the direction that council sent on once we did the acquisition of the Skyline Center. The overall vision of all of us was that the lease revenue would offset the operating expense of running that building. We're pretty much right there now, and we're rapidly buying down that variable rate debt. So keep charging and good work, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ivanbark?
I just had a senior moment.
We can always come back to it.
That's a real good question.
Okay. Thank you, Aubrey.
Welcome.
What are the wishes of council in respect to the item? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Andrews, second by Councilmember Waddell. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. That brings us to our last item of business, which is our reports. Item RP1 is revised council's appointments committees for boards and commissions. At this time, I recognize the chairman of that committee, Mr. Ivanbark. Mr. Ivanbark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The appointments to boards and commissions met on June the 2nd of this year, and members present were myself, Charlie Rivenbark, the chair, Councilmember Luke Waddell, and Councilmember Salette Andrews. Also present was Ms. Penny Spicer Sidbury, our city clerk, and Ms. Meredith Everhart, our city attorney. The first item is the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee. Appoint Jane Patterson to represent the residents of Old Wilmington with a term to expire 8/17/2025. Second item was the Loan Review Board. Reappoint Teddy Hardeen as a residential lender and appoint Erica Schierholz, alternate number 2, with terms to expire 6/15/27. The third item was the Wilmington Tree Commission. Reappoint Rhonda Waterhouse as a city resident with a term to expire 6/18/28. Reappoint Kathy Luna, city resident, with term to expire 6/18/28, and reappoint Gene Fisher with a term to expire 6/18/28. And with that, I would offer those up for consideration.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Waddell. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That item passes unanimously. This concludes its regular agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city attorney?
Yes, sir, we do have a closed session for you, a brief one at the conclusion of this meeting.
Okay. Our interim city manager, Mr. Moten? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, Mr. Joyner,
No, thank you.
Waddell, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I was just thinking, my dad, growing up, forced us to speak to people. If you were in the neighborhood, if you walked past an adult or anybody, he forced us to say good morning and to say hello. And I think with all the things that are going on in our climate today, I think it's really important that we recognize the people that cross our path, simply because you never know what's going on in their shoes. So I'm going to offer a homework assignment to our citizens. Speak to each other, smile, grin, nod. Just recognize that others around you may be going through even more challenging stuff than you are yourself. So like my dad would say, boys speak. So keep speaking.
Mr. Rivenbark?
No, sir.
Ms. Andrews?
So y'all know I love bringing you news about rummage sales that support charities and free markets. This beats them all. So the New Hanover County Recycling and Solid Waste Department is starting a monthly free store of usable items that end up at the landfill. And the first opening date is July 12th from 9 to noon. They're calling it Treasure Island. And the purpose is to basically divert usable items from the landfill and allow people to come and get them. So these are just two of my passions, which are junk shopping and diverting things from the landfill. So July 12th, 9 to noon.
Very good. Mr. Spears?
Yes, sir. I would just say to the citizens of our great county, pay attention to what's going on politically. We're ramping up. We're getting closer and closer to election presentations. That's what I'll call it, presentations. So make sure you put faces and bodies with ideologies and remember what people are saying, but most importantly, remember what people are doing as it relates to our county and our city. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statutes, Section 143-318.11A and 6, in order for the City Council to, 1, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment or conditions of initial employment of prospective public officers or employees. And I will also note that this closed session will be held in this council chambers, and everyone is asked to leave the chamber at this time, and at the end of the closed session, the council will reopen its public session from this room. So we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Andrews. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. We will now go into closed session.